Day 2, woohoo! Someone on social media commented that they should be watching this because it's like Huntersville 101, and I think that's a great thing, because I think the more that people who are watching learn about our town is for the better of us and for all the good of the town. So keep it up, share the information, and let's have an awesome day.
Well, just a few little housekeeping comments. Obviously, lunch is supposed to be in the same spot. As far as I know, we'll make double sure. Checking out wise, you can check out if you're closer to here or whatever's more convenient. You can supposedly check out here at the front desk here, where the little gift shop, ice cream little store is. If that's better for you up here, or obviously you can go back down to the Manor House and check out. But hopefully around lunchtime you'll have plenty of time to do that, or obviously we'll allow enough time to do that. And then our goal is to get you out of here. Well, we will get you out of here by 3:30. We'll just have a hard stop so that make sure everyone can get home at a decent hour. So that is the game plan. And other than that, I think Stephen's ready to get you jacked up again this morning. So go for it, Stephen.
All right, good morning.
Good morning.
So hopefully here in a few short days, we'll be done with the engineering that we're looking at and working on. And jumping into some of the projects I'm going to talk about are on that map. Some are not, but these are the ones we're currently working on. Vermillion to downtown. So the Main Street project stopped short on Huntersville Concord of Warfield Avenue. So we're going to do a little sidewalk project there just on the south side of the road to connect from the end of where Main Street stops. The Main Street project stops on sidewalk on the south side over to Warfield. So that way folks that want to walk along Warfield can also walk up to Huntersville Concord and then over towards the park and Town Hall. 115 at Greenway. Again, there's that acronym again, RRFB, basically an enhanced pedestrian crossing. We're looking at putting one on 115 at Greenway Street. We actually started this project early last year and have run into some property challenges, so we're taking a step back, reevaluating, and seeing what other alternatives we have right now before we move forward. 115 at Damson Drive, another little sidewalk connection. So this is down on 115 near Plum Creek, just north of the Language Immersion School, Stony Brook Station. You're familiar with where that is. So Stony Brook has sidewalk that goes up 115, but then stops where their property line was. So there's a little bit of a gap before you get to Plum Creek. So we have a little project here to extend that up to Plum Creek. So folks in that neighborhood, you want to walk down to the schools, walk down towards Brighton, a little connection there we think people will benefit from. Huntersville Concord Road at Covington Crest, a little sidewalk connection here, adjacent to the neighborhood to the east. Again, connecting that neighborhood to the next neighborhood along Huntersville Concord Road. It's a short section of sidewalk there. No homes front right there, but there's a gap in the sidewalk. So filling in that little gap so that there's more area for folks to walk. This project, we have plans, permit, everything ready to go, and we'll let that here soon to construction or construct in-house. Bud Henderson sidewalk. This is a little bit longer of a section. This is along Bud Henderson Road between Gilead Village and Arbor Beer. If you've been out there along Bud Henderson Road, there is sidewalk along the entire north side of Bud Henderson Road between Beatty's Ford Road and Gilead Road. This is the only remaining section left. And so we're going to put sidewalk in here, and so then it'll be a continuous connection. So if you're in Gilead Village and you want to walk all the way out to Beatty's Ford Road, the parks and schools, you can. You'll have that option now along Bud Henderson Road. 115 sidewalk at Bellamore to CVS. I was expecting some extra pictures maybe thrown up there on this one.
Jackie may do a cartwheel here in a minute.
This is a sidewalk on 115 between Bellamore and CVS, just as the project name is. Some folks in Bellamore that may not have access to a vehicle or maybe not able to use a vehicle very well. So this connection gives folks that live there that need to be able to get to CVS to get their medications and stuff. Sidewalk connection here on the west side is the goal to do that. You have anything to add, Jackie?
This is a good time for you to talk about the difference between, on occasion, you have a citizen call in and request a sidewalk, and how we prioritize that with staffs getting together and seeing where there's a small connection we might be able to make. There are multiple emails to the previous mayor of a request for a sidewalk here. You may or may not have a picture. I took a picture of somebody pushing a walker up 115 at this location. It just gut wrenching to me. It's an opportunity
It's in our
for me
slides
to.
I'm sorry, it's in our slides if
Okay,
you
good.
pull up the slide.
Well, sort of good.
Yeah.
It's also an opportunity for me to talk about the complications associated with putting a sidewalk on a DOT maintained road. So they have some opinions about what the sidewalk should look like and when a retaining wall or what the slope might be. And so that picture was taken in June of '01. And so Anthony's joke about me doing a cartwheel, I'll do a cartwheel on that sidewalk if we ever get one. I have championed that location because of that picture.
Well, I think the point is you can see up here, we're trying to make meaningful connections. We're not just picking a sidewalk to put somewhere. You'll see more that makes a meaningful connection, that there's a little gap missing. We're focusing on those first. And as you can see, you would think, that ought to be a $20,000 piece of sidewalk. There are no more real simple ones anymore. It's all got to buy right away. It's just like a road. So it's the same process. Could take a little bit of time. You would think, Kevin, just go pour some sidewalk out there. If they're that easy, those are the ones I'd love to know about, because we can knock those out in a matter of a couple of days. But typically, you have to go through that same process: appraisal, potential, right away, construction easements, all sorts of things. So they're not as quick as you think, but a lot quicker than roads, but still they can take a little bit of time.
I do a cartwheel on that sidewalk. It might be a test of our interdepartmental cooperativeness, because I'm probably gonna want the fire department around. It's been a while.
If you see a handprint or footprint, it's probably gonna be Jackie. And we've already told Kevin we'll probably put a little initials beside it or something.
Stephen, I may have missed if you said it. So has DOT already approved the design or approved this?
We're still working through that.
Okay.
Yeah, all these sidewalk ones that I've been talking about so far, they're in various stages. Like the Covington Crest sidewalk, we're done. We have the permits, the property plans, the 3 Ps. We got all those done, and now just need to go build it. In the case of this one, we've got a plan set into DOT to review, and once we get feedback and get them comfortable with what we're doing, then we'll go acquire property. You kind of mix those things up and say, well, let's just go get the property first. What if you get too much, too little? We only want to get what we need to get. So we want to make sure that they're good with what we're doing, then go get the property, so we only have to do it one time.
And most, if not all, I had checked the list, are probably on DOT streets. So they have to review it, a little bit longer process, et cetera.
It's typically been, I'd say for the past, year or so, it's been a 6 to 8 week review time with DOT every time we submit something. So it doesn't look like we're working on it, but we're working on it. All right, we've been talking about some small sidewalk connections. This is a much larger sidewalk project. This is about 1.1 miles of sidewalk around the Huntington Green community. This will connect Lake Norman Charter Elementary School sidewalk all along Hambright Road and then all up McCoy Road to connect back into the subdivisions that are up there. This is a larger project. The town submitted an application, I want to say 4 or 5 years ago now, to partner with Mecklenburg County to get Community Development Block Grant, or CDBG funding for this sidewalk. We got started on that process, and again, from yesterday, when you get somebody else's money to do a project, you have to follow their process and do all the things that they want as well. So we've gotten through design on this project. We are wrapping up permitting. We've selected a contractor. We're getting everything lined up so that this spring we can move forward with the project.
And we're continue to submit, try to get more CDBG funds for this project. We'll continue. There's probably only, what I'd say, 2 areas in town that can potentially qualify. It's getting harder and harder and harder because as higher dollar homes, surround those areas, and it just makes it tougher. In the small areas, you can't look at census tracts anymore. You're looking at block groups, and you're getting it down to street addresses, and it just makes it tougher and tougher to get CDBG funds for Pottstown and Huntington Green. And Bobby's probably, I'm gonna say, our expert in the room more on CDBG than probably anyone else in here. And it is just getting tougher to get those funds.
Stephen, how many pieces of property did we have to touch or acquire?
Yeah, we had to acquire 61 or 62 parcels. So easements from that, it's a lot. That takes a long time.
And I would have probably bet you my house and car, we would have not got all 61 settled, but I'd be wrong. So I guess the point to tell you there is, we try to settle and work through that, and I bet would have had to come back to the board to do something, but I think you settled all of them, right, Steve?
Yeah, we were. Had a great consultant that helped us with that, and we were able to settle. Similar to what Anthony said, that many parcels, typically you're gonna find somebody who doesn't want to settle, or is just non-responsive. We run into that too, just folks say, I'm just not gonna say anything. And so then you have to make a choice to move on from the project or move forward with it.
And this is a great project with me. This connects literally the school. You can connect the school, walk basically from the school all the way around to the business park, basically all the way back around to the bridge. And it's just that little gap there on Quarry Road where the bridge is. You can walk through the business park. But that's something we'll probably work on with the Greenway to try to see if we can't widen that bridge to get Salt walk across that little bridge there also.
I'll keep on plugging. Still got a lot of information to go through, but another sidewalk project we have is 115 to Harvest Point. Same thing. Let's make a small sidewalk connection from the neighborhood up to the park. And these small connections that make sense. Another section there on 115. Seems like a broken record here, but another section on 115. This is down between the elementary school and North Meck High. If you're on 115, there's a little gap. There's some properties the school doesn't control in there, and so we're going to work to fill in the gap. Actually, this should have been probably something that should have been done with Brighton, and actually they're partnering to help pay for the majority of this, but it's one remaining section that's still not out there, so we're out there trying to fill in the gap. All right, that's our sidewalk projects. Any final questions on sidewalk projects, current sidewalk projects?
And we will come back and talk about the high school crossing.
Yes.
That's coming up soon.
That's in there. I don't know about soon, but we'll get there. All right. So now let's talk about DOT projects. There's a whole lot of them in town. It's a whole lot of money, over half $1 billion worth of projects. And DOT's projects are mostly your major road widening projects. They're typically not your small stuff, although they do have one in town that is smaller. You want to see where stuff is? Again, this is the same from yesterday. You want to see where stuff is? Go to the town website. Click on those. You get information. If you need more information, just let us know. We can add it to the website or meet with you and provide it to you.
Stephen, for our friends at home, will you say what roads are DOT maintained roads and what roads are town roads, just for people's information?
Yes, on our website, Kevin talked a little bit yesterday about the Powell Bill program. Online, there's a map. It's called the Powell Bill map, and it shows on there what streets are state maintained, which streets are town maintained, and then which streets are still being maintained by developers that haven't been turned over yet. So all of those are on there for the whole entire town.
Generally speaking, it's like roads with lines are state roads, right?
I'm sorry?
Roads with lines are state roads, generally speaking.
I'd say most major roads in town
Yeah.
are state roads.
Yeah.
So your 73s, 21, 115, Hambright. There are some more major roads in town that are not. Brookdale Commons Parkway is a town road. Stumptown Road is a town road, or a portion of
Parts of it.
Stumptown Road
Parts of it,
Yeah.
right?
is a town road. Kevin, can you think of any other?
Ransom Road.
Ranson Business Park is town. So those are kind of your more major, Winfield Creek Parkway, Hugh Torrance Parkway, those are town maintained. But most everything else major in town, all the traffic signals in town are state maintained.
Thanks.
So, again, just going to briefly run through the DOT projects. The first couple, you've seen it out there. You've seen the orange barrels. They've been out there for a while. They're probably going to stay out there for a while longer. Major widening project there at the Gilead Road interchange. It's actually two separate projects. It looks like all one project. It is all one contractor, but it's actually two separate projects for DOT. 21 at Gilead. It's widening 21 from basically the Ford dealership all the way up to the credit union or cookout kind of area, and then widening Gilead Road between the interchange all the way out to the post office. Additionally, with that, and you saw it a little bit yesterday, they're reconfiguring the connection to Dallas Street on the south side, and then also up there north of the Food Line Shopping Center, they're making that connection. Again, we had a couple of projects on either side of those that we talked about yesterday. And then the remaining part of the project, or the other project that they have, is the rest of the interchange, and then on Gilead all the way over to Reese Boulevard, and actually down Reese Boulevard. They added a turn lane on Reese Boulevard as part of that project. This project's under construction now. Their preliminary, or their first completion date that they put out there was April of '25. I've heard that they're not running on schedule, they're running behind schedule. So it may be even longer than that. And that was a 3-year construction time frame from when that was let. So it takes a while to build, even though I've been working on it. Actually, the town started, a little history, the town started working on this, on the intersection project there. It's probably been 10 years ago. The town started it, and the state picked it up, and they've taken it through completion.
Hey, Stephen, you may or may not know the answer to this, but you know, they've started I'll call it the new bridge, but it looks
Yes.
like it's a little bit higher than the existing bridge. Are they taking out that one, or?
No, you're gonna have two. The
I mean, I know they're gonna have two, but were they gonna replace it, or are they gonna lift it, or just?
Nope, it's gonna stay as it is. You're gonna have different directions of traffic on each bridge. So one bridge will carry traffic one direction, and one bridge will carry it the other. So you don't have to have the same exact height on the bridge.
Thank you.
Sure. All right, 73 at Catawba in Kenton. The DOT actually has a small project. They're doing some pedestrian improvements out here at those two intersections, similar to what Jackie talked about before. There's been some requests for pedestrian crossings from folks that need some crossings for 73 there in that area, and there's not currently ones out there. So the DOT actually is going to do a separate special project to add pedestrian crossings across 73. It's planned for this current calendar year. And that's in advance of the 73 widening project that's coming out. All right, North Cross Drive extension. Not much of that project is actually in Huntersville, just the very southern piece of it. But it'll give you another connection up to Westmoreland. Most of the projects in Cornelius. This project's been out there for a long time. They have said that they're complete with right-of-way acquisition and plan to let the project for starting sometime this year. All right, 21 at widening 21 between Gilead and Holly Point Drive. This is taking 2-lane section of US 21 and making it 4-lane divided with reduced conflict intersections. You probably heard different terms for that, maybe super street or is another one, but it's really reduced conflict intersections. That's the newer term. You can Google that, and on DOT's website, bring up some information on what that's about. But really, it's instead of making left turns or through movements at major intersections, instead you turn right. You go up to another location, and then you make a U-turn, and then you come back and turn right again. When you do that, those movements are much safer to make. Typically, your most severe crashes are your T-bone crashes at side streets or head-on collisions. So that this type of configuration really improves safety. Again, I encourage you to Google RCI or Reduced Conflict Intersection on DOT's website. We've got a good bit of information out there on those. Another thing with that is it increases the amount of traffic you can move with the number of lanes that you have on the main road. Okay. If you put traditional intersections in there, you're going to need a bigger footprint. You may need more through lanes just to be able to get the traffic through. So this is a double benefit to that. Now the downside is if you're on a side street and you're trying to go across, you won't be able to go straight across. You'll have to make several movements to be able to do that. So there is a trade-off. Again, all these projects I have, these are on the project sheet list. I think Jackie passed out a copy, the monthly update. All these projects and the status are listed on there. All right, next one, another one just like North Cross Drive, very tiny portion of this project is actually in Huntersville, just the very southern part of it, which is widening Catawba Avenue, another congested corridor from 2 lanes to 4-lane divided. Same type of configuration, reduced conflict intersections. Again, try to move traffic.
Hey, Stephen, real quick.
Sure.
The 21, a couple slides back, how long was that construction cycle, do you know?
Don't know yet. They're still acquiring right-of-way out there. They have been for a little bit. And actually, a recent update I saw was that their project was planned to be let in 2025. Now it's been pushed back a year to 2026. So I don't know if right-of-way or utilities are maybe taking a little bit longer than they thought of, but don't know how long that project would take. I'm going to guess 2 or 3 years, maybe longer to do. It's a major project, and they're not going to close the road when they do it. So when you keep the road open, it takes longer to build the project.
Thank you.
Sure. All right, I-77 at the NC-73 interchange. They're working on the Gilead interchange now. Next one, they're going to come up to the 77 interchange. That one's going to be a bit different. DOT is going to build a bridge over 77 down on the southern side there opposite Rich Hatchett. And then on the north side, they're to kind of come in behind the McDonald's. This way, if you're getting off, say you're coming southbound on 77 and you want to go to McDonald's, Chick-fil-A, that kind of area, you would make it down to 73, you could, but you could turn before then and cross a bridge and go right into that area. The benefit of this project is you'll be able to get places without having to go down and get on 73. You can either go down south of there if you're trying to go to Burkdale or North Cross, or again, you can take that bridge on the north side to get places. It's just spreading out that traffic. You got so much traffic at that point of 73 and 77. You're trying to spread it out, give people more options to be able to go different routes. Next one, 73 between Catawba and North Cross. This is one of several projects to widen 73, basically the remaining part of 73 in town. This part takes it to 3 lanes in both directions. And as I said before, reduced conflict intersections, same thing. You're going to have the same type of treatment all throughout town on the main roads. They're currently in right-of-way acquisition now. Planned construction start in 2027. You saw an update last year, it probably said 2026. Now it says 2027. You're going to see a trend here. A lot of the dates that were in there last year, everything's getting pushed out a year or 2 or 3 right now to get these projects delivered. All right, continuing down 73 out towards Beatty's Ford. So the next section between Catawba, you saw the previous slide was between North Cross to Catawba. Next project, Catawba to Beatty's Ford. The whole thing needs to be widened. They've just broken it down into separate pieces here. So this, again, this is going to be widened to 4-lane divided, reduce conflict intersections. And then it'll have a little bit of different intersection treatment there at Beatty's Ford Road, utilizing some of the existing Brown Mill Road. Construction on this project, on this portion, has been pushed back 2 years from the previous date. It was 2026, now it's 2028. And they are currently in right-of-way acquisition out here now. Next section of 73, this is out on the east side of town, between 115 and Davidson Concord Road. Basically put what I said on repeat. 4-lane divided, reduce conflict intersections. They're out there acquiring right-of-way. This one has stayed on the 2026 timeline so far. Again, continuing out 73 on the east side of town, between Davidson Concord and Poplar Tent. Same thing, but making it 4-lane divided, reduce conflict intersections. This section's actually been put on hold. I think they had some things they needed to go back and look at before. They've announced that this project is on hold for now, but continuing to move forward. I don't think it's on hold and they're not going to do it. It's just on hold. So they've got some things they need to go back and look at some more. Next section of 21, widening 21 between North Cross Center and Westmoreland. Very small piece of this is in town. The rest of it's in Cornelius, just the very southern part of it. That project is planned to start in 2029. Same thing, 4-lane divided, reduce conflict intersections. This is one that's garnered some discussion for several years. Widening Gilead Road between 21 and 115. This one is widening it to 4 lanes, 2 lanes in each direction. The latest concept that I've seen has roundabouts, one at the post office there at Commerce Center, and then another one at Sherwood. But this is a project that the state's started on and then put on hold. And then started on and put on hold. Town actually did some analysis. We looked at, I don't know, 10, 15 different scenarios to try to find a solution. This is a really tough project to find solutions on, unless you want to, just widen and wipe out everything in the corridor. So this is one where hopefully soon we're going to start talking again with DOT to see where they want this project to go, and then see what the town would like to do for the project. All right, and then jumping back up to 73, basically taking where the other 73 projects stopped at near Beatty's Ford Road, and actually taking it all the way out to 16. This project is on hold. I'm assuming pending funding. The project started off as a much lesser cost project. It's increased a lot. They're this will put another bridge over the river. Becomes a pretty expensive option, but there's really nothing else you can do if you want more capacity out there. So this one's a future project. It's on the list for them to do, but it's in the future. We don't have any dates. So beyond, I'd say that's beyond 2030. So drive out there that way and you're hoping it'll get better in a couple of years. Unfortunately, that won't be the case. And that's just a quick run through on current DOT projects in town. Yes?
I just have one question on the Gilead Road one, between 21 and 115. I mean, is there, for the town right now, are we just kind of in a wait, or is there anything that we can discuss or talk about with that
So we are
this year?
working with DOT to try to move that project, get a solution on it. I think we've looked at, 13 different options?
Yeah, somewhere.
Or somewhere, 13 to 15 different options. So staff, Kevin and Steve and I would say are trying to get back with DOT and see, is there some other option? Because we haven't come up with anything that seems to meet our need yet.
In addition to Brian's.
So You're talking
Yeah.
about options that would not be widening.
That's correct.
Especially, okay.
There may be, not widening, yes, not tearing down buildings ultimately. Is there some other things they would look at, side streets to a side street, maybe a turn lane? I'm just making up stuff here, so don't hold me to this. So maybe you're not getting, we're tearing down buildings, but maybe there's a small little turn lane addition, but you're doing a back road connection. We're looking at all sorts of things. And I don't think anybody in this room knows the answer yet.
We don't. DOT tried to come up with some solutions and didn't find any great ones. Town actually did some additional traffic analysis based on that. Still didn't come up with any great solutions, so we're,
And we may not, I don't know.
yeah, it's tough. That current project, you know, in the DOT's concept, it does wipe out some buildings. There near the 115 intersection, so that's why
And
we're
some of them are
trying to
fairly
help
new.
figure it out. All right, now that we've been talking about all the current projects, let's talk about some future ones that we might want to tackle or get started on. Got a list of them up here. These are all in the CIP, so these are not on the map. These are not online on a map. These are in the CIP in the budget, if you want to look to see where these are or where these have been in the past.
And these may slide and move as we work through the process, what we can fund, what we can stomach, you know, et cetera. So these may move around on the list when we get to the CIP.
As far as future projects, the bid is for at NEC. What are your plans or thoughts for that area right there?
He's gonna show you.
Oh.
Yes.
Once again, you guys have been, you missed the study last night too, studied the night before. But yes, yep, it's a project up here. This is a map of where all those projects are located. So the ones in pink are current projects, or magenta, and then the ones in orange are the future CIP projects up here. So there, we do have a little quick cheat sheet of where all these are in relation to one another. I'll jump right in to talk about those, and I don't know, Anthony, if you're looking for feedback or yes or no or maybe. Again, these are ones to think about moving forward, as Anthony said.
Yeah, I mean, if you have questions, these are, you know, as we study projects around town that, you know, helps move traffic, et cetera. You know, these guys, you know, come up with these projects, and we look at these to see if we get funding like this one that we were actually able to get CRTPO funding. We'll probably continue to move this one forward because there's some dollars associated with it that make it more attractive. And it's a need, but some of them may be further out, and depending on how much money we can stomach, at the end of the day, we go through this process. But please give us feedback as we go through. That helps us kind of determine, can we move it up, shift it back, et cetera.
Yep, and as Anthony said, this is one that we did previously apply, put together a package of information to submit to CRTPO for funding, and we're awarded close to $6 million towards this project. We have not started on this one, but the funds from CRTPO weren't available right after we applied, so we thought, why go ahead and get started if there wasn't somebody else's money theirs? Well, now that money is available. The money's out there to be able to get started on this. So hopefully this is one that we can go ahead and get started on, again, because we're getting somebody else's money to use towards this. But this would widen 115 in that congested section there between 73 and McCord Road. All right, next project. I think this was mentioned a little bit yesterday, but project to improve Holbrooks Road between 115 and Central. Railroad crossing there is tight. Turn lanes at the intersection are tight. I see some head nodding going on. But yes, it could use some improvement. There's no sidewalk in this area either. So this may be a project, you know, could a traffic signal be warranted at this intersection? Possibly, you know, as more folks from the subdivisions connect to Holbrooks Road, you know, a traffic signal may be warranted there as well. So this is a possible project to add to get started.
And Stephen, this is a separate project, it has nothing to do with Church Street
Yes, it's an
extension or
independent,
any other
separate,
project.
yes,
Okay.
independent, separate town project. And all the ones I'm gonna talk about would be town-led projects. Okay, these wouldn't be new state projects. All those are out there in the STIP. So if this is one you want to move forward with, there's a possible one there. Next one is Huntersville Concord Road between Walters and Second. So the curve there, as you see, large trucks come through there. They tend to not stay in their lane. They tend to creep over because it's really tight through there. So looking at a project to either realign, maybe put some kind of roundabout or something. We need to figure it out, but if this is a project you want to move forward with, we can look at that more closely and come up with a solution. Also adding sidewalk. There's some sidewalk out there. The developer on one side of the road is going to put in, I think, multi-use path on their side, on the east side of the road, but there's missing pieces in between. So looking at a project that would improve the road and the pedestrian accommodations in this area.
Stephen, a little farther down, Vermillion Village, aren't they doing some widening there as a result of that?
Their widening is really just in front
Right.
of their development. They've got to add some turn lanes in front of that. I think it comes up to the culvert, if you know where that is in that area. It does not come down that far into that project.
Thank you.
All right. Next project, Walter Street, between Huntersville Concord to Third. So what you see up here in pink is the proposed project area. What you see in blue, that'll be part of the new Vermillion development, Ranker Mill, Vermillion Village, however you want to call it. So this project would improve existing Walter Street and then extend Walter Street to then be able to tie into Vermillion Village as another way for the folks in that development to get places, but also, we talked some yesterday, Meacham Farms, Sequel Street, Church Street. This is another piece of that same project. You know, when we talk about going from Hambright all the way up into Davidson, this is another section of that same road. So this project would improve the street that's out there, add curb and gutters, sidewalks, and then build that section that's missing there between Second and then up into the Vermillion development. All right. Same area, just on the south side of Huntersville Concord. As part of the Main Street project, Church Street, you no longer can go north and south on Church Street at Huntersville Concord. There's a median there now. So to be able, your only option is to turn right in or right out right now. So to improve the network, you could realign Church Street on the south side to connect up with Walter Street, previous project that we talked about. Again, adding more local network so people that want to move around, in this area, have some alternatives to be able to do that besides Huntersville Concord. All right, Hambright at Mount Holly, Huntersville. We've received calls on this. We've had some questions on this. There are currently 4 different private developments that have committed improvements at this intersection. There's a lot. I don't know if each of them is waiting on the other to go do the improvements or not. There may be some of that. There may be some partnering. We have seen plans from a developer to make improvements out here. They haven't gotten started yet, but hopefully that's coming. This is also out here. You can see kind of on the right side of the image, looks like a dark area. That's trees. That's where the CAT's parking ride's going to go. So if they do a traffic study, we may have 5 different ones, different folks that may have committed improvements in the area. Improvements are needed, and while we have a project, there's so many different developers that have committed to do it. We've kind of looked at the timing and want to wait to see what all they get completed before we jump in.
Yeah, we'd wait to see what are there any leftovers, to make it better. So this one will probably be in a future year.
Yes.
I just wanted to go back to the Church Street to Walters realignment for a second, because I know right now with that new median that was put in, like if you go up Church Street, you can't make a left.
Correct.
Would this allow a left?
Yeah, there's no median down Huntersville Concord at Walter Street. So then you could go across or make a left out of there with that project.
Okay.
So this I guess reestablishes that north-south connection or be able to make more movements at that intersection.
And when we look at these projects like this here, there may be a developer who owns some land in here. We may sort of hold off a little bit to see how that transpires, and maybe they build a project. So those are things we look at, just like the one Stephen was talking about earlier. We're probably not gonna widen the road before the developer, they've started clearing dirt. That's why that project held off for so long. Make sure they're gonna do the project first, and then we will probably time it right to try to tie in. So some of that deals with how we push projects up or back, et cetera. But this one may be, I think a developer owns quite a bit of land in here that we may decide to see if they can do it.
Yeah, maybe so. And then, this project had been talked about for a while, to kind of be done around the same time as Vermilion Village. And Vermilion Village, was coming, and it got delayed there for a little bit. Well, now they're out there building it. So now may be a time to go ahead and get started on it. When we get started on it, it's not going out there and building the street. We have to do that same, develop plans, go get property, relocate utilities, and then go build it. So that, there's probably year timeline before you start seeing it. So you gotta think in advance. When do I want this project to be out there? Okay, if I want it in 3 years, we probably should go ahead and get started on it now. If you're thinking next year, well, we're already behind. We're not gonna make it. So think about when you want to see the project, and then we can go back or forward from there to try to move forward. All right, Beatty's Ford and Neck Road, project out here. This project would look to add a left turn lane and possibly a right turn lane on Neck Road, but improve traffic flow, improve safety when you add left turn lanes on the major street, an unsignalized intersection, really providing a big safety benefit too. It's not just about traffic capacity or traffic flow. That does help, but if you think about it, if you're driving along at 45 miles per hour and somebody stopped in front of you, it's not a good situation for those vehicles, for rear end collisions. So there's a big safety benefit to putting it in, and this is a possible project to look at.
Would that straighten it out at all, or keep the same angles, or?
Yeah, we probably wouldn't be able to straighten it out a whole lot. We could try to straighten it out, kind of widen to the inside of the curve there some. You straighten it out too much, then you're probably in the neighborhood maybe some. So there's trade-offs. We'd have to look to see what we could do there. The more you widen or get off existing alignment, the more expensive the project will be as well. So all things to consider as we look to do the project. All right, the next several projects are all next to each other. This is out on the west side of town. Oliver Hager, Irvin Cook, Burkdale Commons Parkway. Right now, there's just some ends of that project. There's a little piece on the north, a little piece on the south. There's big gaps in the middle. So the next several projects are filling in those gaps with new road. So this project would extend Oliver Hager Road south. Just to the north of here, there's a subdivision. I can't think of the name on it. Brian,
Oh, they changed it.
Yeah, developments typically change names 3, 4, 5 times before they get built. But there's a subdivision to the north of here out to 73. They're going to build the first portion of the project. This project would extend the road south, and then you could extend Burkdale Commons Parkway and then have another connection there. Whitaker Point, that's the current name. Thank you, Brian. So that's what this project, I got it on the slide. All right, and again, next project, extending Irvin Cook down to tie into Irvin Cook. South of that project I just talked about. Again, new 2-lane road, new thoroughfare to connect up, giving you parallel routes there to Gilead Road. And then if Burkdale Commons is extended, you can travel down Burkdale, then down here. I see Barry nodding his head. It looks like another great way to, more alternatives to 73 and Gilead Road out here. I don't know if the town's looking at any kind of other safety facility. Fire station I know was talked about out here as well. I see some head nodding over here from Anthony and Jackie, but is this another project? Do you wait on that? All parts of the puzzle. how we doing on time here? Probably behind, like normal. And then the remaining section of Irvin Cook is upgrading that. There's a subdivision that's going in, Hazel Farm. Hazel Farm is going in. They're going to do a lot. I say some, but they're going to do a lot of the work to widen the road and add sidewalks. Project here would just finish that out. So this project is probably something you're going to want to wait till the developer does most of theirs, and then we come in afterwards and kind of finish that out. All right, and then just a few more slides here. Here's some projects. These aren't on the CIP list. These are just some maybes you may want to consider adding to the list or replacing on the list with others. These are just some maybes, okay? First one, this is North Meck High School. So today, a lot of students cross between the entrance there on 115 to get over to the Walmart, Bojangles, McDonald's, there's a gas station over there. There's a lot of students cross over there. Did a traffic count, actually planning helped us with completing a traffic count out there. Around 100 kids in the morning cross the street here. They just walk across. There is no pedestrian anything in this area, okay? So 4-lane divided road. It's about a count on one day was 100 students in the morning, over 200 in the afternoon. This is just in one day that crossed in this area. They all didn't, it's kind of I drew a bigger box in there. That's the area where people were crossing, somewhere in there. You know, did they walk down the street and just look over their shoulder and wait for a break in traffic and go? Barry's shaking his head no.
They basically take over the road. 3 or 4 of them step out and then people just stop and go all day.
And they do that at
And then
every high school, I
20
think.
yards down through there, they just like a herd go across through there.
Huff does that too. I mean,
Oh, yeah.
it's dangerous, super dangerous.
Yeah, I witness this every school morning and a lot of the school afternoons, and yeah, it's just a major accident waiting to happen.
So a possible solution may be to put in an enhanced pedestrian crossing.
Not an RFBA or whatever.
So RFB may be one, but a step up from that is called a hawk signal. That's, don't ask me what the acronym is. It's a hawk signal.
Do you have a
But
picture
when
of
you-
one, Stephen?
What's that?
Do you have a picture in here at all to show what one of those look like?
I don't have a picture in here, but we can get you one if you, again, Google hawk signal, it'll come right up.
It'll basically be either wooden poles with wires with like stoplights above, you know, like a real traffic light, or a mast arm above with basically traffic lights hanging down to
There's
stop.
one on Westmoreland.
There's one on Westmoreland, where the Greenway crossing is the one I know probably closest around. Is there one closer, Stephen, that you're aware of?
Not that I can think of. I don't think we have any in town. But the difference between that, and if you remember from yesterday, the RRFB, where when you push the button, yellow lights come on. When you push the button for this, red lights come on. So the vehicles have to stop. You know, this flashes and it becomes basically a temporary traffic signal. Traffic's supposed to stop, just like the other ones, but this is much more.
And when you push the button, so you gotta remember high schools let out, I've got a high school kid, they let out, kids come and go all the time. So we just wanna share all the information here. You push the button, one kid stops. So that could be all day long.
What is
Pretty
it that,
much from- you know, cause they get out and some, have double release, single release, et cetera, so that can happen anytime.
So is there any delay between, like, if I walk across the street and 30 seconds later, somebody, you know, the light's gone?
I think every time you push
Because
the
otherwise,
button,
you
stops,
could have that
right?
whole road shut down.
Yeah, so you could set it up to only come on, you know, wait between the previous activation till the next one. You can set it up and time it that way. But it's pedestrian activated, so it stays off until somebody punches the button. But it's not instant. You don't punch the button and then instantly the
Right.
car stop. You have to wait, and then it'll come on, and you can cross, and it'll turn off.
I mean, I drive through there quite a bit, and, you know, it's not like they all just go at once. It's, you know,
Yeah,
for
it could be
15
spread
minutes.
out. There are pros and cons. So you think about you've got a lot of traffic coming through here. So when you stop it, all the traffic in both directions have to stop. But what's the impact? Could that save somebody from getting hurt? or hit, or worse.
And it's like
Yeah, think about
anywhere,
that
it's
too.
not gonna be, 100% approved, just like crossing the crosswalk at a signal, you think that's
Yeah.
protected, I mean, you hope people are paying attention, et cetera, but, I mean, it's,
Yeah,
it'll be a
there's
new
no
thing.
guarantees. No guarantees. Just because the lights aren't just at a traffic signal, you saw some examples from Barry yesterday. Lights red, that doesn't make people, I mean, there's not a gate or a wall that comes up when it turns red. People
Same.
can still come through there.
And the
there's
same
no,
thing,
no
kids.
guarantee that people will use that exact location. They
Right.
may still walk around it, not use it. There's no guarantee. But
We
right
know
now,
high
there's
school
nothing.
kids are not gonna go to that stripe lane. Hopefully the majority will, but
Yeah.
I have a
Didn't we
kid
do
the
some
same age and they're
improvements?
gonna go, they see the light red, well, heck, I can't make it today, I'm gonna cross, 20 feet down or 30 feet down. Most likely that will happen just based on what I've experienced myself. But that's why we wanna have this conversation. If we want to move in the I think we need to do something. And I think the better solution or the best solution, and then it's not gonna be 100 proof, is probably the overhead signal that Steve was talking about. Does that cost more money? Yes. But hey, if we save one kid's life, it's worth every penny of it. So that, putting a cop out there is not gonna work because that's just not gonna work because kids, trying to get them across here, same thing. And they may not be there. They may have to leave for, I don't know, some mass shooting. So the best probably thing that is permanent,
Thanks, Ian.
I mean, something could happen, they're gonna have to leave. So I think the best solution is probably some type of overhead light and just make everyone aware that a new school's gonna be built. Is that gonna, so we may put this up and the school shifts. I'm sure the building's probably not gonna be exact, be torn down and go somewhere else. So it could be that this is not the perfect location, but I got a feeling the kids are gonna still park over at the Walmart area regardless, because they're not gonna be able to park on campus. No school can hold them all. And then it may be late on, you even have to put one down on Alexandriana just because kids may park over there. So just want you to be aware of all the different things that may be involved here, but I think we probably still need to do something regardless.
I'm definitely in agreement. Are you aware of the system that the city of Charlotte is using on Elizabeth, where Central Piedmont Community College is? Because when we used to park in the parking deck there to go to our classes, you push the button and it lot of flashing lights, but also it speaks out very loudly to you as well as the vehicles traveling.
No, I'm not familiar with that one.
Has a chirping system?
It
Is that what
does.
Yeah,
But,
actually, that's a new standard. That's been an option for a while. City of Charlotte's been using something called ProWag. It's for the pedestrian accessibility guidelines. That's a step above. Those guidelines is really technical, but if you really want to get into it, those guidelines were finally finalized, I think after 10 years of being in draft. As part of those, you have to have the vocal messages that come across for all pedestrian crossings.
Yes.
So when you press the button, it's for those that have some visual challenges. So you hear that audible on both sides of the street as well.
Can I add, this is also something that's supported by the principal. She had actually reached out to me, and I think she spoke with the last board as well, but she had reached out to me not too long ago. And is it correct that DOT has approved having a crosswalk there?
Yeah,
It's
so
not
we-
funded or anything like that, but they've said that they
We've talked with
allow it.
DOT actually a couple of different times. A year or so ago when we brought this up again, and then recently we asked them, would you allow something on 115? And their answer has been yes, they'll allow it. They haven't offered to fund it or pay for it or do any of it. So if the town does want to do something, the town would have to pay for it and also have to pay to maintain it as well for as long as it's out there. But we've asked them a couple of times and the answer's been yes both times.
And I have chatted with Principal Hood probably last week or so, and they are very supportive. I think one of the things before, maybe with previous board, is they had said, hey, let's go get CMS support. And Principal Hood has garnered that and got support from CMS, and so I've chatted with her in the last week or so, and I think even had communication. We had a great conversation on police officers great, but that's not probably a permanent solution, and she understands. So we had a very good conversation and talked about having this conversation with the board. And, like I said, I think we should do something. And, you know, if,
Would
heads are nodding,
CMS be interested in partnering with us to help fund it? I
that,
mean, and what are we talking about price-wise? I mean,
So a hawk signal probably in this location, you're probably looking at $125,000 to $250,000 for install.
depending on right, we gotta do research on right of way, it may be fine, those kind of things, just to verify that, that's gonna drive up cost. And then it depends on whether you do a wooden pole or a decorative type, and I'd say, let's just do decorative, even though it costs more, I would probably do that. Probably stands out better.
Also, less
And,
right-of-way impacts.
Less
So you
right of way
do-
impacts, cause you're
There's trade-offs.
anchors down instead of, you know, guide wires and stuff like that. Even though it is more expensive, that's probably what I would recommend that we do. That's what we're doing with all new signal lights, is decorative. That's what I'd recommend. So I mean, if there's, Anthony, move forward in that direction, we got homework still to do. Then just some heads nodding that direction, we'll go do what we need to do to get the numbers and start moving down that path.
One thing I do, have you heard if there is any firm design plan for the new high school?
Brian may have seen
We've
something.
had 2 meetings, just got a third submittal in here, they're not close to meeting the ordinance. We've offered them conditional district rezoning, they're not interested in that at this time, so we're gonna keep working with them. Hopefully we'll get that tightened up in the next couple weeks, but just preliminary discussions right now.
Because I knew, at least in the mornings, in the afternoon it's a little more spread out, but in the mornings, a lot of the crossings occur to get them as close to the entrances that have the metal detectors, you know, and where they're funneled into the building. So if that does shift to a different spot, I could see that being impacted.
And I think the school system has said, as far as construction timeline, once they get through plans and permits and all that, 24 to 27-month construction timeframe is what CMS has indicated.
I imagine you're 4 years probably, if I had to just take a guess right now, 4 years before maybe you could walk in the building. Just a good guess.
But I guess knowing if the main entrance is gonna shift drastically.
So we would try to work, just before we pull the trigger on the permanent location, we try to see if we're a little closer, you know, where to move it, but I think we need to do something. And if we can find dollars from legislature or wherever else, we'll dig every hole we can to try to find it. But either way, we need to try to do something. So we will move in that direction. I think I see everybody kind of saying, yeah, keep moving in that direction. We will let you know what we come back with. Thank you.
All right, just have a few more. Other possible project, but Beatties Ford Road. There's a school park on the west side of Beatties Ford Road here, especially in the morning time. School site, I see Barry nodding his head. This is nothing new. You see all this stuff. This is not, oh my gosh, I had no clue what's going on. You see the issues out here. During school time, the school fills up. The parking lot fills up. We've gone out there and looked. They can't hold any more cars. Nobody rides the bus, so all parents bring the kids, and when they do, traffic queues up, and there's nowhere for it to go. So this project would add a right turn lane so that if you're traveling on Bud Henderson and you want to turn right, you can go on Beatties Ford Road. Right now, you have to wait until everybody can get into the school before you can go. So this project would add a right turn lane out there at that intersection.
And this is a project that will probably move up the list pretty quick, because if right-of-way exists, it's something we can probably knock out.
I was gonna say, it's the
Quick,
least
it has-
expensive project I've seen in a while.
Right,
Yeah.
that too, but it may be an easy project that we can make a quick hit that has some major impact. So this will probably, make it high up the list.
All right, next project, sidewalk on Ranson Road. Right now, between the elementary school, they're kind of on the bottom of the image, up to the new subdivision there, Hudson Reserve. There's some gap in sidewalk. There's no sidewalk on either side of the street there. So looking at a project, either add sidewalk on one side, the other, or both sides. You've got subdivisions on both sides of the road here. And this would give folks the opportunity to be able to walk to school. or walk up to Stumptown Road where we just added some sidewalk up there. So just adding some sidewalk connections in the area. All right, a little bit different, bigger project here. Townley Road. I'm gonna look over here to see if what Brian may have heard, but Townley Road currently stops. You've got a gap over to North Cross Drive. Project there would probably have to be a bridge, so this is a short distance, expensive project. To put in a bridge to get over the Greenway and then get over to the other development. I believe some developers have sort of committed to do this or not, but
Potential participation.
potential participation, okay. So this will be another way in and out of Burkdale. You saw before, DOT's doing a project to extend North Cross up to Westmoreland, so there'll be more folks coming on North Cross. Could they get into Burkdale without ever having to get on 73? Well, you would need this connection to be able to do it. So this has some benefit for folks to go in and out and not have to get on 73. But again, it's an expensive project for a pretty short distance. All right, Greenway Street between Watkins and 115. The new town center development extends down to Greenway Street, but between where they stop and out to 115, there's not a whole lot in there. It's kind of tight. If you drive over there, I think there's some businesses right there. Try to park. If somebody's parking on the street, it makes it hard to get through. So we look to widen the street a little bit and then add some pedestrian connections, some sidewalk in there to kind of improve, finish that street out. All right, and that's all I've got. Thank you. Didn't take all day, that's great. Any questions on or thoughts, comments on any of the CIP projects that are already on the list, or any of these other maybes?
And we'll have, trust me, this is not the last time you're gonna see this. We're gonna see this multiple more times as far as when we start to craft a budget and talk about projects and moving and shifting. And so we'll have a huge CIP discussion. You'll probably see some of these pictures again. But anytime, questions today, later on, just send them to us. But I promise you, you're gonna see these many, many times before your term's up. And you're probably sick of seeing it, or you'll be able to give Stephen's presentation for him probably. So.
Is there a map, do we have a map that would overlay CIP projects with the Vine and the Greenway? Future build-outs?
We probably don't have that. We can build, we have all sorts of maps with probably every layer you're talking about. So they're all just GIS layers. But I don't know if we haven't taken the future stuff and put on there yet. Only we have current projects, various GIS layers of all the current projects. But the future stuff we don't, just because we don't know exactly what the board's gonna say on those projects.
I feel like especially with the sidewalk connections, it would be really interesting to see them on the same, like with overlay with the Greenway system, to see.
We have that.
I think it's just adding the the map that's on the town website. It has all the state projects in one
Yep.
color. It's got the town road projects in another color, and then the town sidewalk projects in another color. It sounds like just adding the Greenway project.
Just
You talking
put
about the
them together.
interactive map?
More just like, so you can see both at the same time on the same map.
Because I know we have a map with the greenways and all the sidewalks on it for sure. But it's,
With
if
the
it's,
road as well. I mean, I'm interested more in the
Yeah.
sidewalks, but
I
I'd
think
like
it's
to see
just,
the.
yeah, I think it's just
future road
adding
as well.
the Greenway projects to that same transportation
Yeah.
projects. I think it's, everything else is there.
Thank
should be
you.
easy, because they're just layers should be very easy. What else you got, Steve?
That's all I got. I can do some more if you want.
No.
I don't think Patty.
Any other questions, Mayor and Board of Stephen? All right, thank you, Steve. Yeah, we'll try to get Ethan knocked out before the break, if that's okay, Mayor, you good with that?
Yeah.
So Ethan Smith has been our PIO since June of '23. So we talked about some long tenured folks. Here's our new tenured folks. There's a staff in communications right now of one. He's it. He coordinates press releases, news articles, external communications with other departments. Think about his duties related to managing the website and all things social media. Then, of course, handling the press and requests for interviews. He has already handled successful implementation of redesign of the website. He was instrumental in the educational piece that we did for the 2013 bond issue, as well as assisting the folks with the 150th celebration. He's been updating our branding efforts. He has a decade of communications experience. He has come here from other municipalities. He has worked actually in the press as a crime and court reporter with a daily newspaper in Eastern North Carolina. He began in local government as a PIO in Morganton, moved on to Union County, and he holds a certificate in crisis communications. He has already worked on draft policies that we're likely to press forward. So Ethan, take it away. Thank you, sir.
Good morning, and thank you, Jackie, for that extremely kind introduction. Like Jackie said, I've been here for about 7 months. And when I was hired and during the interview process, the goal that was presented to me was to come in and take our communications department and our efforts to the next level. And so the big question was, well, how do you do that? So that's what we've been trying to do for the past 7 months, and we'll jump right in. I started by looking at where we were. We had a lot of reactive communications, which means something would happen, and then we would tell people about it. We would hear something from the public, and then we would address it. And our current strategy is trying to shift into more proactive communications and head things off of the past so people are hearing it from us before they hear it from other people. We didn't have a lot of policies, which means we didn't have a lot of foundation on why we did what we did and how we shared things. And to do that, you need policies in place. We didn't have a lot of targeted outreach on how we reached out to the media and the public. And our social engagement, which is where people live online, was pretty low. We had a lot of tools that I'll spend a little bit of time explaining. We have public input, and that's one of our better tools. It's a really good community engagement tool to get feedback from the public, and that's very active. Our 2024 Parks and Recreation Survey is live on there right now. Then we have an app. Today, I checked with the company who runs it. In a community of about 65,000 people, we've only had about 362 downloads since its launch. But my understanding of that is that it had a bit of a soft rollout, and we haven't done any hard marketing around that. I believe it could be useful. It mainly links back to our website content, and our website, which I'll go into here in a little bit, is now mobile friendly, so there's a lot of overlap there, but the content mainly just drives people back to our website. But before we make a firm call on what to do with the app, I want to make sure that we give it an honest chance, so I plan a marketing campaign for this year to try and drive downloads and see what kind of traction it actually gets so we can make a data-driven decision instead of a feeling-based decision. The other tool that we had when I came in that I have not touched, to be perfectly transparent, is the podcast. Podcasts take entire teams of people to run. We had a handful of episodes out there, and if we're gonna do it, I wanna make sure that we're executing it correctly. I have talked to a colleague of mine in Gaston County who has a very successful podcast about how he runs his. It takes a lot of effort and a lot of people, a lot of planning and a forethought in what content you're gonna put out, and I would like the chance to plan that if we're gonna do it, but for now we're focusing on doing what we already have in place extremely well. We had an ADA compliant website that wasn't designed the best, which we've handled, and I'll talk about that in a little bit. And we were just lacking a lot of outreach and engagement online where people live. We have across the big three social platforms of Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, X, whatever that one's called now, about 20,000 people, and they're very active, and there's a lot of engagement on those platforms. So after I looked at where we were, I tried to figure out who we wanted to be, and I'll read off that sentence to you. We serve the residents, businesses, and visitors of Huntersville by proactively and strategically distributing valuable, relevant information about the Town of Huntersville organization on various platforms in a timely manner. What does that mean? It's the next sentence. We share news about the town. We tell people what we have going on, but we do a heck of a lot more than that, which broadens the scope from PIO to communications. We handle media inquiries. That's the world I came from, and we appreciate and value our partners in the media. So anytime anyone contacts from a media outlet, TV station, newspaper, that usually gets routed through me, through our office, and the exception to that is Major Vaughn with the police department. He handles the police department communications, but he and I work together to craft our responses to the media outlets so we can all make sure that we're on the same page. We also promote community engagement. So that's a lot of offline stuff, getting people involved in coming to town board meetings, getting people involved in the upcoming mayor's coffee chat, chances to talk to us offline, basically. And we have, I'm hearing some rumbles of, a lot of stuff that might be coming up with the budget, ways to engage people around that. And so we'll see what we can do there. Our purpose also should be managing the town's brand and image. You've heard all about all the different things that we're doing, and it's a lot. And we have a great story to tell in our 2040 plan. The goal is to be the most livable community in North Carolina by 2040. We have to tell that story to people because it's clear that we're one of the most desirable areas. And branding is what people say about you when you're not in the room. And so we want to make sure that we are telling people who we are and they're believing it. And that's all branding and managing our image. So we also lead and manage marketing efforts about the town, which is making people feel good about where they live and getting them to identify with where they live. And that's a lot of kind of the soft infrastructure efforts of going to events and taking photos and publishing them online and just a lot of outward feel-good communication. We manage and plan and promote strategic content on social media, and I'll delve into that a little bit more later. We also maintain and create content for the Huntersville.org website. And overall, we act as a public relations arm for the town government, focusing on proactive and positive news. So that's where we want to be. That's the goal, and that's the purpose that I've defined for our department. So now I'll go in a little bit more to the efforts that we've done since July of 2023. I called it July because I technically started on June 26th, so I might as well just round up. The biggest one and the most recent one is our website redesign. So that launched on January 31st. It is a completely overhauled look, and there was a lot of time and effort that went into that. I can't take all of the credit, really half the credit, hardly any of the credit, because we had about 24 staff members who were all willing to work on this with me. And while I corralled them and communicated back and forth with Civic Plus, they're the experts. They're talking to people every day who are contacting the departments. And the content that you see on their homepages and across the website now is a direct reflection of the feedback they've received from the public and what they feel their department has going on that the public needs to know. Also, my predecessor in this position started the effort and got it off of the ground, and I just hit the ground running with the work that had already been done. This process of getting all the departments involved to tell me and tell our vendor about what designs they wanted to see, what content they wanted to see, was about empowering departments to have more of a hand in the website. And as we empower departments to make more edits and update more things, we're also working on a website governance guide, which is a guide that will standardize how things are put on the website, why they're put on the website, what style everything is written on the website, and that way no matter who is working on the website, it'll have the same feel, which is more back to that branding and image maintenance. We also implemented new navigation. So on the homepage, under the search bar, there's quick links that link you into different sections of the site that are high touch areas. And then we have graphic links on top of the homepage that link you into more necessary areas on the overall site instead of department specific. We have a get out of jail free button at the top now to navigate you back to the homepage of every website, which we didn't have before. We have a Google Translate tool in the bottom left-hand corner. We know it's not perfect, but it's a vast improvement, and Huntersville is a very diverse community. It's in the Charlotte metro area. There's a lot of different languages flying around, and so we wanted to make sure to at least make a good faith effort and getting people the information they need in the language they read, write, and speak. In addition to that, we finally have stood up Google Analytics for our site so we can make data-driven decisions about the content on the website. That was a huge piece that we were lacking. We were sort of flying blind. We were getting feedback from everywhere, and we couldn't say, well, people are visiting this page or people are not visiting this page. Who wants to take a guess at how many visitors we had to the website last calendar year?
Individual visitors?
1 billion.
We had 980,000 views
Wow.
from 286,000
See there?
unique users.
Y'all laughing at me.
How many unique users?
286,000 unique users. And they're coming from everywhere, predominantly Huntersville and Charlotte metro area, but I mean all over the country. And our second most visited from country is India, which is interesting.
That makes
Oh,
sense.
wow.
That makes sense.
But we have access to that information now, which means we can take that and roll it into the decisions that we're making surrounding the website, which is a huge boon for our online efforts. Another thing that I'm really excited about that we did, I think, in my first 2 months here, is that we implemented a software, or not software, it's an online tool called Meltwater. And so that is a media monitoring and outreach platform. And part of branding is knowing what people are saying about you when you're not in the room. So it crawls everything online, from TV stations and newspapers to Facebook and Instagram and Twitter/X, and tells you anytime people mention Huntersville, police in Huntersville, transportation projects in Huntersville, the planning department, we get to define and set the keywords, and we get daily reports about what people are saying about us.
Even in
Which
private
means-
groups?
I'm sorry?
Even in private groups?
No, that's a blind spot. Just because there's a security layer in private groups, we don't have access to the private groups. That is a large blind spot, but it's a lot more than what we had. The media outreach is something that I use a lot, that I value the most about the tool. If we have, let's say, a Parks and Rec press release that needs to go out, we can go into the back end of that tool and we can put in, give us every reporter in the Charlotte metro area, in North Carolina, or in the United States who has written about Parks and Recreation in Huntersville in the past 90 days. It will pull up all of their contact cards, the outlets they work for, how to get up with them by email, their social handles, their phone numbers, and it assigns a credibility score. So how often what they say is accurate based on the AI data that this tool has. And then we can select all those people, put it into a list, and then email our press release to that list. So that means we can also now, since we're sending out our press releases through this tool, track how often people are opening our press releases. There's no more guessing. We know exactly how much. So the industry standard, according to MailChimp, for government marketing and communications emails is 28.7%. And we have an open rate on our emails of 50%, which says to me that we're telling people things they want to hear, and it's effective because they're opening them, picking them up, and sharing the word about our programs. It also has an AI-assisted writing feature, and I want to make it very clear that we have not used that. AI is not writing Huntersville content, but AI is here, and people are using it. And so it's better to have the tool and learn how it works. And I'll talk a little bit more about some guidelines that I've written that we're working on surrounding AI. It's better to have that than be blind to it and act like it's not here. AI is taking over the world, so we might as well get on board and see how we can use it for government. But it's really fascinating. You can put in your key messages. So let's say, like donuts with a duck and bunny that Parks and Rec has coming up. I'm picking on Michael because I can see him. You know, we can say that event's happening on this day at this park. People should come out and they need to sign up by this date. We wanted to have a positive feeling message, and we wanted to use this quote from our director. You hit write, and it writes a 500-word news story for you using that information you gave it. And even if we get to the point where we're using something like that, it still takes human expertise to take it, put it in AP style, which is the industry standard for how things are written in government and journalism, and to make it sound human, because nothing AI is writing is actually sounding human, and so it still takes that personal touch. Outside of Meltwater, we've done our general obligation bonds education campaign. So by North Carolina law, we are not allowed to advocate for or against the vote when bonds are on the ballot in an election, but what we can do is educate people. And so we wanted to educate people surrounding the bonds so they had accurate information about what they were voting for. So we stood up a webpage on our website. We created a whole dedicated bonds website with the help of Francis Tucker in our planning department. But the story map website gives you a timeline, potential projects, answers some FAQs and everything. Then we promoted all of these things on social media. We created custom social media graphics for Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook to tell people what was going on, and then did some brochures to put in people's hands at town board meetings and around businesses. Then we delved into our 150th anniversary campaigns. When I came on, we had done a little bit around the 150th anniversary, but I saw what towns like Apex were doing. They had their 150th last year, and I saw what other towns had done for their 150th. and we needed to amp up our external communications about celebrating our 150th, and that it was indeed our sesquicentennial. So the 150th committee put together video vignettes. So we conducted a strategic social media campaign, releasing those videos in short bites across 12 weeks, culminating in a big 16-minute long video that was all of them stitched together that tells the story of where Huntersville has been. We did some proactive marketing, putting it on social media, little things about our 150th campaigns and our anniversary, and the things that Parks and Rec did about putting swag bags in parks and telling people to go find them and tag us when they find them. We had our notable people, places, and events list on our website. We have a couple of stars from here, TikTok star actors. We have, how we got our name, that 61 people voted on our town name back in the day, how fast we've grown, just different interesting facts. And then we took all that information and created social media graphics to outreach on social media and did a campaign called Fun Fact Fridays. Every Friday, we would share a graphic with a fun fact about the town of Huntersville that came from the 150th committee, and just getting people engaged with what we were doing to celebrate our anniversary. So then we've been shifting into a more heavy focus on proactive positive communications. So Parks and Rec won its 4th Normie Award for summer camps in a row. Our former planning director retired after 22 years of service with the town. Capturing those little things and sharing them with the community that paint us in a good light and help people learn more about the town at the same time. We've been focusing more on that. We've had a lot of progress. We're not perfect. We're still reacting to things because it's a town of almost 70,000 people and I am but one person. So we're doing our best and hope to get a lot better at that. We also upped our social cadence. Based on just what I saw on Facebook and Instagram when I got here and combed back through, we were doing an average of about 5 to 7 posts per month. We have upped that on average to about 3 to 5 posts a week now, just keeping people engaged with our content. And the goal is that if you stay on people's radars when they need to know something, they'll look to you to learn it. And you do that by sharing stuff frequently and keeping people engaged. We've also been trying to formalize and strategize on how we share information. So we're trying to do away with just get it out there, because we've heard about all these other organizations that have things going on in the town of Huntersville. They all have their own communications teams who are putting information out about this stuff. So instead of duplicating their efforts and writing it ourselves and putting it out there, we're looking to them to give us the information that they have created to share on their behalf. That protects our brand, it protects our reputation, and it gets people where they need to be, because if they call us and ask about a project that another organization is doing, we may not know the answer. But if we share their information and point them to the right people in the first place, they're likely to get a better answer, and that serves our residents a lot better. And then we've been developing policies and plans. So this is the foundation work of building this department and trying to take it to the next level that we talked about. We've developed a media relations policy and training that we'll be rolling out soon. Basically just how we engage with the media, some tips to engage with the media, and where the town steps in, where the town doesn't step in if something is asked about the town or a question comes our way. We've also developed a crisis communications plan. So that's a 32-page plan that dictates the different levels of a crisis that may hit the town. And if things, it's not if something might happen, it's when it might happen. So it lays out a blueprint for here's how we respond, here are our stakeholders, here's who we need to update if something happens. And it also provides us with a large repertoire and an appendix of holding statements to where we can make sure if something happens, we can reference that and give people something immediately instead of just saying, no comment, we don't know anything, because that's not a good strategy. We also have developed our AI guidelines document. It's still under review. It's with police right now because they have some case information that they want to go through and make sure we're not putting any case information in AI. They're formalizing that language, but it's basically just laying out what you can and cannot put as a government entity into an AI tool like ChatGPT or Meltwater if you're using it, because they store that information forever. We also, the website governance guide that I talked about a little bit, is currently under review, and we should be rolling that out very soon. So, currently,
Before
yes.
you go on to the current efforts, did you track with those improvements any metrics, like to see the engagement? How many, are you gonna cover that?
No,
Oh, okay.
No, it wasn't
So,
that bad.
so like, you know, how many followers you have now, like since the improvements, how many are engaging with the posts, like anything, any metrics?
Yeah, so we, I just had to pull that information because we've submitted a few of these pieces for awards, and so they want metrics. And across our platforms, each one has gained a couple. Twitter is our lowest. It's just not what it used to be. Instagram and Facebook have gained roughly 500 to 800 followers in the past half a year, which is a pretty decent growth rate, and we're getting more and more every day. Let's see here. Our video vignettes wound up reaching across social media platforms almost, I can't remember the exact number, but almost 60,000 individual users. And our Fun Fact Fridays, I think all told, reached around 48,000 people across our platforms. And so we're tracking the bigger campaigns because we're always sharing, you know, typical stuff that people need to know and sharing things out from our website. The engagement for those types of things isn't record setting, but it's decent and it's getting us followers across the board. But these bigger efforts have really paid off for us in getting eyes on our platforms.
Great.
And so ongoing improvements, with the website redesign launch, the redesign is off the ground, but we have the new tools and the new look that I told you about. We'll be implementing the governance guide, and we'll continue to refine our content and navigation throughout the year. We've heard a little bit from the departments about, you know, people wanting different tools to be planning projects. We've been working with planning to try and implement a new tool. We're in conversations. We're nowhere near actually putting it on the website yet, but it is something that we're aware of and we're working on. We're hoping to get an external town newsletter off the ground in March. Please don't hold me to that. We've been a little bit busy, but I'm working my tail off trying to get it for March. And that's just a good place that every month we can put the highest priority items from the board and from departments to directly communicate with people who have signed up for the newsletter. And it's an additional way to just target information, because a website is wonderful. It doesn't always notify a user when you put new information on it. So we have to tell people that the new information is there. So if we can put it in a newsletter and put it directly in their inboxes, that's another way that we're increasing outreach. We're also working this
Ethan.
year. Yes.
Oh, I can wait till then.
Yes.
I can wait till you
No,
finish.
go ahead.
I was just gonna ask, because right now, or with the older website,
Mhm.
and I guess still currently, there are, in different departments, you can sign up for notification. You can get emails from different places. Will the newsletter be an option to kind of streamline that, so like a resident can go and sign up for one email distribution list and would receive?
It's something we're looking into. I'm looking at 2 different platforms outside the website now, those tools we have with Meltwater and Public Input. Just the way that is laid out to send a newsletter and track its metrics is a little bit more amped up than going through the back end of our website. And those are metrics we need to make sure that we're putting the content out that people want to know about. So tracking those open rates and our unsubscribe rate and everything like that, I don't think our website does that. But we're looking at the different options for it.
Okay. I had another website question, if you.
Go for it.
With the AI,
Yes.
because I know like a lot of companies, and I don't know if Civics Plus or the provider has this option, but lots of companies have that like little chat bot where
Mhm.
people can, type in,
Right.
I'm looking for this, or I've got a question, and is that something that's capable with this platform?
Not through Civic Plus, but there is a company that comes to NC3C and our conference every single year called CityBot. They're good at what they do. Apex, the town of Apex, uses CityBot on their website, so if you wanted to go and test it out, it's on their homepage. That's would give you a good feel for how that works. I have not looked into pricing. I just know that's the company that exists that does it, that people seem to be happy with, and I haven't had any exposure to any other companies who do that.
Cool. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
And have you cloned yourself? Because this is a lot that you've got
Have I what?
achieved. Have you cloned yourself? Because you've achieved so much since you're online.
I appreciate
It's
that.
impressive.
Thank you. So the big piece is putting in place a town communications plan. And so that's formalizing how, when, what, and why we share things, where we're sourcing information from when we do and do not share information on behalf of other organizations, what content we want to get out from our departments to the public and how we do that. And so that would put it in a formal document that we can reference anytime anything comes up. And also, I hope to be here for a very long time, but I want to make sure that we have a plan in place for whenever people cycle out and people move on. because I want to build this department in a way that it will outlive my time at the organization, whether I retire from here or leave earlier than that. I want somebody to come in and be able to pick up a document and say, this is how we do things, because then for our residents, it doesn't miss a beat and we can keep doing what we're doing. So, planning ahead. We're continuing to make our website improvements. And then another piece is this branding work. I have been talking to a couple companies about pricing, the services they offer, and the branding process is pretty much the same. The vendor comes in and they talk to your community. They have stakeholder sessions with residents, with elected officials, with staff members, and they try and put to words what your story is. They give you a design for your logo and the templates. We wouldn't be changing our logo. Please don't hear that. Our logo is in the process of being trademarked, I believe, and so we're sticking with our logo. But it would use our logo the same way across PowerPoint presentations, press releases, social media graphics, and other graphic design marketing pieces. Give us templates to work with that. Formalize our story and do it in a way that engages our community. And it would make sure that we're having a chance to tell people who we are, so they're telling that same story when we're not in the room. We will also be requesting an additional staff member. This is just to prevent any spots and to make sure that we're increasing our efforts in the communications world. Our residents have high expectations, and I think that's a good thing, because that means they believe we can do a lot and believe that we can do better. And I want to lean into that and make sure we're meeting them at their expectations and serving them to the best of our ability. Adding a staff member helps amp up expertise, skill levels, departmental coverage, information that we're getting out. And it also makes sure that we have fail-safes in place for if I'm out or we have an extended emergency event. When I was in the news world and hurricanes would happen, we'd work for 3 days at a time, and by the end of it, you're falling on your face and nothing you're saying is making sense anymore. We need to have, we're a government, we can't afford to be operating like that, and we need to make sure that we have coverage to where when one person needs to take a break, someone else can step in and do all the same things that the other person is doing. So we would be looking at adding a communications specialist, which is a generalist, which is what a public information officer is also. The only difference is they wouldn't be as accountable as I am for the decisions the department makes. They wouldn't have the same responsibility level, and they wouldn't be having to make the same decisions that I make. But ideally, they would have the same skill set to where they can continue to do the work of the communications department if I'm out for any reason. And it also helps us increase our coverage in proactive communications. Internal communications is something that we want to step up on, and that would be great to have another person to help us with. It helps buff out our social media strategy and just our overall communication strategy and efforts. And then to encapsulate all this, I'll be recommending a name change from public information to the communications department, because it's more accurate to that purpose that I talked about in the beginning. Instead of being the reactive gatekeeper of information, it'll be more proactive, and we're setting communication strategies and policies and how we do things with the full staff. So that's all I had.
I'm really happy to see we're gonna be working on branding. I think, when you think of Charlotte, you think of the Queen City. Cornelius sort of has the lake community, but I think when we say Huntersville, it's like, what does that mean? And I'd like, when you say Huntersville, for people to think whatever that's gonna be. So I think that's great.
Thank you. And I mean, clearly we have a great story to tell. People are moving here in droves. They want to be here. There's a reason for that, and it's important that we put it to paper and tell people why that is.
I may have missed it earlier with your Fun Fact Friday. Is that resident led? Do you have like resident input with that as far as sending in like facts about Huntersville or fun facts about Huntersville?
So that was led by our 150th committee.
Okay.
The history subcommittee, which Catherine actually served on and helped with. She would work with members of that committee to get these facts to help publish on the notables list on the website. And then we would take some of those facts and some other ones that they found and find historical archive graphics like newspaper clippings from the time. There was one about when we had one phone to serve the entire town, and Leggett Blythe wrote an article about it, and we were able to clip it and turn it into a graphic and fun things like that, but it was led by the 150th committee.
And will that continue? I know that it was specifically for the 150 years, but will it continue?
We would be looking at different campaigns at this point, since that was more focused on the 150th.
Okay.
Yeah, Fun Fact Friday is kind of like that idea of like sharing something cool about Huntersville.
Yeah, I really like the idea, and I think it would be neat to continue it. I think we just need to figure out what that looks like
Yep.
outside of the 150th.
You're one person.
Yeah.
Yeah, we see that.
Yes.
You briefly mentioned that there were, maybe used rumblings or discussions about public engagement or increasing public engagement around the budget process. And
Mhm.
I'm curious to hear more about that, especially since we just had the bonds that
Mhm.
passed. And one of the questions I think a lot of us heard in the fall was, you know, because you can't name specific projects, but now that the bonds have passed, and, you know, as we're looking at our CIPs and all of that, you know, I'd love to see how we can increase engagement
Sure.
in the whole process.
We don't have anything firm yet that we would be ready to tell the world about, but what we have done is in the fall, we researched different ways to, I think it's called participatory budgeting, is that right? And we worked with an intern who was on staff at the time to look at what other communities and organizations were doing to engage communities surrounding their budget and offering them opportunities for feedback. And so we had that research in place, and now that we're moving into the budget process, that's something that we would workshop with the communications committee and then bring to the board if we're ready to bring anything to the board.
Sounds great.
Yes.
You mentioned we can't promote bonds, for example.
Right.
We get certain inquiries for information, and so we can always have factual information. What is your thought on chatbot? For example, I'm just the police department, for example.
Mhm.
If someone wants to inquire about something with the police department that's not arrest related, or
Mhm.
it could be just let's say asset forfeiture
Sure.
information. We can train the chat box to just put that information out. So I'm gonna put asset forfeiture, it'll put out everything in relation to that. Or somebody wants to know about IT
Mhm.
or special events. So what are your thoughts on chat box?
I'm not opposed to them. That's the function that CityBot would serve that I was discussing earlier. And I'm happy to look into them and get a quote and see the extent of their services. But my understanding from when they have attended NC3C conferences and given presentations is what you're talking about is basically exactly what they do. And so I can reach out to them and see what services they might be able to offer us on that note.
Good deal.
Anything else?
Do you know of like Apex or similar communities?
Mhm.
How large are their communications departments, or how many staff do they have?
Sure. So I looked at colleagues in the area and then parallel communities across the state. The town of Apex is about 63,000 residents. I want to say their budget is $102 million a year, and their communications staff is 5 people. The city of Kannapolis is 54,000 people with a $104 million budget, and they have a staff of 3 people. The city of Concord is 106,000 residents, no, 127,000 residents with a $106 million budget, and they have 4 people on staff. I did look at, but excluded county level governments in our area because while we might compete with them for communications jobs and employment, they have budgets that are so outsized compared to us, I don't think it's a fair comparison.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Dusty asked for another person.
Anything else?
Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
All right,
Great
let's
job.
take a little break. Come back at, what time do you think, 12, or 10, not 12? 10?
That's what I heard.
Make it 10:30?
10:30?
And then if you want to try to check out, between that time, great. Do it, closer to lunch. You do what you need to do.
All right, Larry, you're up.
Okay, our next presenter is gonna be Larry Davis. Larry Davis is our IT director. Prior to, 2019, the, FY '20 budget, the town contracted with an IT firm to provide IT services. Looking back, thank goodness that we had the insight to bring that in-house with an employee. How might we have managed all things COVID without, prior to Larry's coming to the town, we had no virtual meeting technology. I'm not sure how we'd put off the number of streaming that we did without Larry's group. So, Larry's been with the town since 2019. Larry is, leads a team of a total of 4 IT folks. Think about, Larry holds several IT certifications. Please let him tell you what they are if you need that detail. Think about absolutely everything technology related. So Larry supports our telephone. I can't really call that landline anymore, but the office phones and the cell phones, mobile data terminals in the police department, streaming meetings, cameras, anything audio visual. Larry's had a lot of input on the plan at the new town hall. Desktops, laptops, the multi-factor authentication. Don't everybody love that? No. But thank you, Larry. The whole reason we have to do multi-factor authentication, cybersecurity. Very thankful for what Larry and his group does. Larry, tell us more.
Sure, Jackie. Thanks for the introduction. I know everyone's been waiting for this presentation. That's why we come here. So we'll jump into it. So hopefully it won't be as long as Stevens. So right?
It won't be.
Oh, no, it won't be. If it is, we have some technical problems. So we'll talk about some projects. We'll do a camera update. And then we'll talk into what we do and about some potential staffing. So recently we partnered with Corvid, not to get confused with COVID. They do a lot of cybersecurity. So if you think of the 3 letters, the DEA and all those guys, they're involved in all that. So they help us out. So they manage all our logs. They ingest all that stuff. So if something goes bump in the night or during the day, we're aware of that. So any kind of odd elevations or anything weird, we get alerted. They react on that almost instantly. They have a SOC, so a group of people sitting in a room, and all they're doing is looking at monitors. They have, and we had a chance to visit, so all they do is look at analytics all day long. So they're constantly monitoring our stuff, and we have thresholds set. If this happens, alerts, and so they manage all the so firewall logs and Active Directory logs and endpoint devices and all those logs. So in 2023, staff generated around 13,000, almost 14,000 tickets. Sorry, 100. Not 13,000.
There's accounting stepping in again.
I would have to ask for a new department. Sorry. So that's about 115 tickets a month. So I just looked in January. We did about close to 200 tickets. So that number's consistently increasing.
Sorry.
Yeah. Yeah. Most of it is planning. So. Not in Colorado. I'm just kidding. But. So yeah, and that's due to taking on more software. The fire department is coming on and just adding staff and adding stuff. So at the end of October, we had one of our guys leave. So we hired someone. They came on January the 2nd. So regardless of your skill set, it still takes a while to onboard the person, show them how we do things, why we do things, and kind of get them moving. So that usually takes 3 to 4 months just to get them onboarded, and when they can actually get on their own and start doing stuff. And so we recently transitioned our phone system, video conference systems from RingCentral to Zoom. With the new town hall, with a lot more things that we have going on, we have new requirements. So there's a lot of things that Zoom offers that Ring Central didn't. And there's also a cost savings associated with that. So, so that's nice as well. So we're getting more and better features for less money. That's always good. So we continue to increase our security posture by implementing levels of CIS policies. There's tons of them out there. We try to stay with the local government. They usually do about the same one. So we work hard to implement. When you implement these things, you're always breaking something, right? So when you start to tighten down security, it's inevitable that something's going to break. So you just got to be aware of that and look at that and fix it as it breaks it. So, so here's a camera update. So we have 234 cameras right now. This year we added cameras to Huntersville Athletic Park, the HAP. So we threw some cameras, and I think Jay Cox, if he's here, yep. So we should have cameras in all of our parks right now that I'm aware of.
That we have buildings.
That we have buildings at, yeah, that we have buildings at. Rosedale, all those guys, so we have Bradford, we have them in all those. We anticipate soon, as soon as we get the power issue worked out, that we'll add at least 15 cameras to the parking lots of Bradford, at the soccer field and the softball field. So that will help the police department with break-ins. We'll also add an LPR at the entrance there as well to help with that. That's a license plate recognition camera. So like Chief mentioned, it'll snap the license plate, and if it hits on something, it'll alert. So kind of here's a breakdown to kind of give you guys an idea of how everything's broken down. We have 73 traffic cameras, but if you remember Chief Graham's presentation, he just put up 25 poles, right? Thank you, David and Electric Cities, for doing that, and so that means at least 50, potentially 75 more cameras. So from a traffic camera perspective, is that number will maybe double. So it's going to be a lot. And we have not only those 25 poles, there's some other things that projects we're working on. I think Chief and I spoke Frankie's Walmart, some cameras there. So there's a lot of other places that we're working on, and we're working on a solar initiative as well. So there's some places we can't get power, so we're working with some potential solar companies to put that up and put that in place. We have 36 park cameras. I think we'll add a couple more when they build a building at Berry Park. So we'll probably add some cameras there as well. And we have some 5 LPR cameras, and those are places like when you're leaving North Meg Park and Discovery Place Kids, and we have them a few other places in town that we have those. And we have 8 cameras on the greenways at the trailhead by Town Hall, are the majority of them, and I think we have some on the other side of town near the police department, near that greenway. Any questions about cameras or potential cameras? Yes, ma'am.
Larry,
This isn't a concern to me in particular, but I wonder if it might be to some folks in town. Is there anything that we have to do in regards to privacy concerns when we have cameras out like this?
These are on public roads,
Okay.
so there's no privacy expectations on public
Okay.
roads.
Larry, they're on public roads, but you mentioned a couple of places in town where there have been issues where we benefit from having a camera. Will you address what our status is with discussing it maybe with Burkdale?
Sure. We have had many meetings with Burkdale, and they want to partner with us to put, I think the police department has LPR flock cameras there now, but they want to work with us to put approximately 30-ish cameras around Burkdale. They've had some break-ins, they've had some other issues. So, they're driving it, they're leading it, we're just partnering with them to help them out. So we have a plan. They're kind of getting funding right now, but I think probably this calendar year they'll probably end up implementing that. So we did a few site walks with them, and we looked at some strategic places to put some cameras where potential break-ins and that they've had issues at.
So you're
So we
working
are
through the
working with
process.
Burkdale.
What you'll be looking at, if it's any of our stuff will be on public streets, and they're probably wanting to look at what we have, what technology we have, those kind of things to see how that ties in.
Right, right. So, right, so that, yeah, they're picking our brains because we've been doing this for a while.
So they would operate them separate from ours, or we
No,
would have the same access?
we,
We'd have the same access, okay.
I think we would integrate them with our current software,
Gotcha.
and then they would have access as well. So they'll have full access to all their cameras.
Just their.
I was
Just,
gonna say
just their
camera.
cameras, right, not our cameras, so,
We would own
yeah,
them, and we would give them just those.
right.
And then we'd have immediate access, just like ours, to
Right.
theirs. Okay,
So,
got it.
so, I mean, and the nice thing about that is that if something occurs, you know, the police isn't beating on their door, I need this footage, they can go and look it up right then, they can be a lot quicker response time
Yeah,
on that.
great idea.
So it
There
just helps
there are
us.
other organizations, in previous positions I've worked in, that sometimes we may tie into a car lot or something, or they may give us access. Those are things we work through, the police works through. They're not our camera, you know, those kind of things, but they like to see that they can coordinate. It just makes us able quicker to respond. But
Right.
those are things they work through with legal, police, et cetera, if there's access issues, et cetera.
And you point out, these are not monitored. We don't have somebody sitting there looking at them
Correct.
like real-time crime. So these are, hey, we got a crash, somebody pulled up at the office and look and see what it is on the way out there. Hey, it's a overturned car or whatever, stuff like that. But there's not someone sitting there watching them 24/7.
Right, so this is more a reactive approach than a proactive. I'm sure you visited, we visited, I mean, a few years ago, but Charlotte has a crime scene. This huge video wall, probably as big as this. They monitor
Real
that
time.
stuff. Yeah, 24/7. Barry said he's gonna put that in his budget for next year. Any more questions about cameras? Cool. So this is kind of a general, what we support, what we maintain. As Jackie mentioned, we have 4 staff, myself and 3 other people. So we maintain and support the town's telephone system and virtual meeting technology. So when you call the town hall and they pick up and dial, or any kind of virtual meetings, all that stuff's incorporated. We handle that call flow, we handle how that stuff works, and if it's broke, we fix it. And so that's kind of how that works. You know, someone in the IT department, they attend all stream meetings. The planning department, I think they have like 3 boards that we attend. We assist in them streaming the meetings to make sure it runs smoothly and the content's getting out there. So we have over 300 computers, and that's going to increase as we add fire. So it's going to be more buildings, 4 more buildings, potentially 5 if you guys approve that as well. So that's patrol laptops. So we have laptops in all the cars, right? And one of the other bullet points at the bottom, and all those cars have printers in them. So when they do e-citations, they write a ticket, prints out, and they hand off the ticket. So we have to support and replace and maintain those as well. So 300 mobile devices, that's iPhones, iPads. So in a lot of our cameras that are around town, we have something called a cradle point. Think of it as like a wireless device that's hardened. So it's made to withstand cold and hot. So it's in a box up there. So we have a ton of those. So we support all those. We swap those things out. And then also the cybersecurity, the posture. So we're constantly reviewing that. We send out, they're called phishing campaigns with a P, not an F. So we send out campaigns and we test email. We're constantly sending out education things once a month about cybersecurity, and we just try to educate the end user as much as we can to just, because that helps us out, right? So the more educated they are, the better we are.
Larry, do those videos that staff get go to the board?
They do not. We can add that if you guys like. I get a lot of positive response out of the videos. They're informative, but they're funny. So they're pretty good. They do a great job. But if you like, we can start sending those as well, and you guys, it can help you guys out as well. So also door access and cameras. So access control, we have 75-ish doors around town in all our buildings. Access to those when they break, people needing access. So cameras, not only when you put up a camera, but you have to maintain that camera, right? So if you look, some of the cameras, they get dirty, so you're constantly, we have a maintenance schedule where we have to go out and clean the lenses, and if they're beyond that, we have to replace the lenses, which is usually under warranty and stuff like that. There's no cost to that, but it takes time to go out there and clean them, maintain them, and things of that sort. So it's not a, set it, forget it. It's a constant maintenance thing that we have to do. And that takes up a lot of time as well. And maintaining the network infrastructure, you can think of the infrastructure like the roads that Steve was talking about. We have roads that connect all our buildings. We have fiber that connects everything, and then we have other devices that connects all the computers and stuff. So we have to maintain and keep up with that. So we have firmware. We're constantly updating that stuff and keeping that up to date. We have printers all over the place. We have 7 multi-function machines. Those are those big copier things. We manage the copier contract, which is coming up, I believe, in April. So we're in the process of negotiating that and redoing that. We have over 40+ servers, multiple backup appliances that we maintain, and firewalls as well. So that's a lot of stuff for people to keep up with. And one thing to mention is that we partner with Corvid, and we do a vulnerability scan. So what that does is it scans our whole network, it scans the whole town, anything's connected. So it tells us, like, if this PC has, say Adobe software, it may be out of date, or it has this software that's not compliant. It lets us know, because the biggest vulnerability with PCs is, A, you have to patch them, you gotta keep them patched, and you gotta keep the software patched. There's always vulnerabilities that come out. We get emails constantly through the week with MX Isaac is who we subscribe to, and there's a vulnerability in Chrome, there's a vulnerability in Adobe. It's constant throughout the week, and we're constantly patching those things. And sometimes, you have to physically go out and touch a PC, because if you can't push it out remotely, sometimes you have to physically touch it. But I think that is all I have. Any questions, thoughts, concerns? All good? Awesome. I think Mr. Lucor is up next.
Okay, congratulations, David, on probably the longest introduction with the least biographical data. You have been an Electricity's employee since 22.
April 1st, believe it or not.
However, more than 30 years of municipal electric system experience.
That's correct.
Thank you. So we're going to do a little bit of history with Electricities. There might be citizens, you may have run for the board and not realize we own our own electric distribution system. We own our own electric distribution system. So we're going to show you a copy of the territory map. The territory map is a general guideline. It is not a hard and fast rule. We want you to see where, generally speaking, building electric lines is expensive. So electric utilities infrequently build over one another. A reason to do that might be if you want to go out and get a big customer, if you have an agreement with somebody. And so if somebody advance me to I hope the next slide is our territory map. Awesome. So generally, there are no hard and fast rules, but generally from the interstate, now you can see it's a little bit jagged, from the interstate west is generally Energy United's territory. The distribution system that the town owns is generally from the interstate over, I'm gonna say, east of Northstone and east of the new Publix on 73. And from that point over to our outer town limits to the east is Duke Energy. There's some exceptions. There's some exceptions that don't make sense. But to prevent the overbuild and competing for customers, This is a territorial map that has long stood that we, all three utilities generally agree on. Anthony, David, we satisfied with that?
I'll just give you one good example, the hospital. You would think it would be Electricities or Energy United. It's neither. And Duke is way out there. But as Jackie said, there's some one-offs that they may have run a line up 77 to serve it. They're off in these agreements amongst these agencies, and so that's just a good example. That's an error in the map there, but these are just general guidelines of about where the boundaries are. So that was just one example I wanted that came up recently that would prove this map wrong.
But in general, that's where the territorial lines are. Okay, so, you heard from Zach yesterday. Zach is an employee of an outside private for-profit entity. We're gonna make you experts in ELDRS, the Local Government Employees Retirement System, by talking about the fire department, right? So, local government employees participate, most local government employees participate in ELDRS. Electricity's employees participate in the same retirement system we do. So, David, help me out here. I would argue that they're a quasi-governmental entity. They're not a municipality the way we are, but they're similar. I was not here at the time. It was a great decision. I endorse it. Back in about 1996, the towns of Cornelius and Huntersville, think about how much smaller we were in size then. Their director in charge of the electric systems both happened to be moving on at one time. Electricity's corporate suggested, why don't we help you manage that system, because we see some significant growth coming and neither of your systems are that large, and that might well help you manage cost. And so there is an agreement that has been amended several times since about 1996, such that Electricities manages our system and Cornelius' system too, by the way, for us. So we reimburse them their costs. So they hire employees and we reimburse them. They hire linemen, they hire billing and collecting staff, and they manage that system for us. We reimburse them that cost. That's the relationship between us. It's an ongoing contract. It's the rare contract that says that doesn't have a term date. You renegotiate. Generally speaking, it's been modified a couple of times, but it's ongoing. Works well for both of us. At this point, the system that's operated off of our 73 location does some support for Pineville. That has happened. That's a modification that in what you all do that's happened since '96. Okay, so, all right, what are we doing in the electric business? Okay, so my words, not David's technical words, but my words, the town is a member of a municipal co-op. And so back in the 70s, see, I said it was a history lesson. Back in the 70s, some municipalities got together and bought into a portion of Catawba, not McGuire, a nuclear station in South Carolina. And so we are part owners in that nuclear station as a municipal co-op. The municipal co-op we're a member of is called North Carolina Municipal Power Agency number 1. Be abbreviated occasionally, but that's what we are. Building a nuclear station is expensive. There was a lot of debt that got agreed to. The debt pays off in 2032. We maintain responsibility for the amount of debt that was our ownership share at the time, close to 2/3 of 1% of our ownership in that municipal co-op. The debt will be paid off in 2032 to make that debt sellable, to make sure that all those relationships were maintained. This is what the 19 member agency cities, one of which was us, agreed to in the 70s. If there was it is absolutely true that you can sell your electric system and get out of the electric business. If you sell, according to the terms of that agreement, you can only sell to another municipality. That means somebody's gonna own an electric distribution system outside of their municipality. And you can only sell, that sale must be approved by the other 18 member agency cities. All of that.
Likely not to happen.
So it, legally could you? Yes, practically. Thank you, Anthony. All of that's true while the debt is outstanding through 2032. 2032 used to be decades away. It's not decades away anymore. So just be cognizant of that. There are, I don't know what those 19 member agency cities might do in, 8 years from now? But keep that in the back of your mind. We own the electric distribution system that's downtown right now. And so for aesthetic purposes, for system reliability purposes, you have more influence over lines that you own than you do over Duke lines or Energy United lines. So should you choose to still be on the board in 2032, sell then if you want to, but remember how that could have ramifications on other decisions you might make in the downtown area. I think that's all I got, David. Finally, your introduction is ended. Thank you.
Appreciate that. So let me get a little bit more in depth. There are basically three types of electric utilities in the state of North Carolina. One is an investor-owned, like Duke Energy, used to be CP&L. They have shareholders. They are a for-profit company. Then you have electric membership corporations, which back in the day, as the cities began to develop, the outlying areas were remote and away from everything, all the electric infrastructure that was being built. But people in the rural areas wanted to have electricity also. So the co-ops became a thing, and they developed their business model around each of their customers became an owner of their system. The municipal systems, they call public power communities. As Jackie said, they're governed by the board in each municipality, and there are a lot of benefits to that. Part of that is you have local ownership, local control. You make decisions for yourself. You kind of set your own destiny. You're not forced to do some things if you were a customer of another entity. So there are benefits to that. You have local people that work on your system, that know your system inside and out. Public power communities, as a general rule, respond more quickly and restore power more quickly than the other two entities. So all that goes into, that's why you got into the power business to begin with. Back in the 70s during the energy crunch, if any of you are old enough to remember that, the state of North Carolina was looking at not enough capacity on their electric systems, CP&L and Duke. So both of them started building nuclear power generating stations. And about 2/3 of the way through, both companies were just about bankrupt because the cost continued to escalate. So that's when the cities were approached. 32 cities in the eastern part of the state and 19 cities in the western part of the state pooled their resources and bought the majority share ownership in those nuclear stations, which allowed both companies to finish that station. And as Jackie said, when they did that, they bought a bunch of debt. So a nuclear station is the most efficient way to produce electricity, one of the most efficient ways, but it's also the most costly to build. So ever since that happened, all of these years have been paying the cost of that construction. Once the cost of construction gets paid, the operating cost drops significantly. So all the municipal members in the West have been paying into getting this cost reduced, similar to paying a mortgage. Once you pay off your house, you don't have a mortgage payment anymore. It becomes a lot cheaper to live. Same thing on a nuclear generating site. Once it's paid for, it's very cheap to produce electricity. So that's where we are today. And as Jackie said, the area in the middle of town, your power system serves approximately 8,500 electric customers, which in a community of 65,000 is not a big percentage. But the other two entities serve the rest of your area.
David, I think I left out one thing that I think is material I want you all to know. You might hear in the newspaper occasionally Duke has commissioned the North Carolina Utilities Commission to change rates, usually raise them. You are the board that sets your electric rates. You don't commission the Utilities Commission, you set them. Your rates are in effect until you change them to different rates. So unlike the tax rate that you set every single year, the rates are the rates until you vote to change them. And generally speaking, we recommend rates that will cover our cost and usually the appropriate level of fund balance and provide some money for that ongoing capital. In the last 5 years, Patty. Recently, we have commissioned 2 independent outside cost to serve studies, so somebody can tell us, what do they recommend we change about our electric rates, if anything? And they are right now in line with what the most recent study would have suggested.
That's correct. So unlike the investor-owns, municipal systems are not for profit. They are to provide a service to the community and not to lose money, but to maintain that service for your customers and to continue to develop your system and serve new customers and new as they develop. Any questions on that before we move on? Okay. So as we look at the electric system and the progress that's being made, you know, you've heard a lot of people say that people are moving into the Huntersville area, and that is very true. There are multiple projects going on, multiple multi-family home projects, lots of influx of customers that will affect our electric system. So as the electric provider, you have an obligation to make sure that you have capacity to serve all these new customers as they come into your territory. So what people like me do is look at the system, look at the capacities we have on each substation, each circuit, and make sure that we have capacity to serve these customers wherever they locate. And as we look at the capital items or the capital projects that are coming, we see a whole bunch of numbers. So you see here Arden Senior Center, 133 multifamily homes. Brighton Residential, 73 single-family homes. Brighton Townhomes, 25 multifamily homes. Brighton Woodfield, 354 multifamily homes. Gilead Road Town Center, 300 multifamily homes. Gilead Road Walk 23, 30 multifamily homes and 3 commercial units. Gilead Road Underground, that's not a increase in your customer load, but that's a project that was undertaken a few years back to completely bury all the overhead power lines down Gilead Road to make it more aesthetically pleasing. Hambright Junction, 300 multifamily homes. Huntersville Distribution Park, Jamesburg Drive, there's one commercial customer that's going to expand there. We've got Maxwell Townhomes, 35 multifamily homes. Middleburg Hamlet at Abbott, 260 single-family homes. North Creek Village Residential, 125 multifamily homes. You can see there's significant growth occurring in our service territory. All of these projects are in the middle portion of that graph, and your system needs to serve them. So we have to make sure that we have facilities in place to be able to absorb that additional load. So as we look at FY26, there's some continual growth that we have projected. Some further subdivisions, Brownlee subdivision, Brighton Alliance Apartments. That's going to be a 720 multifamily home property with 5 commercial units. So all of these are adding up quickly. Look at the total increase to the system. For FY25, we're projecting 556 single-family homes, 1,952 multifamily homes, and 22 new commercial customers. FY26, 127 single-family homes, 1,505 multifamily, and 5 commercial customers. So in the next 2 years, we're going to add 4,167 customers to the electric system. So as we look at the capital needs for these, we have to fund the electric infrastructure, we have to put lines in place, we have to put transformers, we have to put meters, we have to extend our lines into each of these areas to serve these customers, which is an expense that we have to budget for and plan for in each upcoming fiscal year. So each of these has a dollar amount assigned to it, what the best guess estimate for those would be. And the residential is somewhere in the $2.6 million price tag. Commercial is about $1.8 million. And then we have capital projects to beef up the system that can serve these customers. So when we look at the substation, basically a substation is where we take delivery from a generating station. The generating station in Catawba pumps up the voltage, they ship it all across, wherever it goes to. Once it gets to Huntersville, we have substations that take that high voltage and step it down to a lower voltage, which we can distribute around our service territory. So as the substation, it has a finite capacity, and as it continues to increase its load, we reach a point where we have to build a new one because we're overloading the existing infrastructure. And that's where we are. And we've been pursuing a new electric substation for the past few years, trying to identify a site to put it on, and we're still making progress with that. But the loading that we see coming down the road is going to require the construction of a new substation, and fairly quickly. So the main substation that serves the north part of town is about 95% loaded now. As we look at these new customers coming in, there's no way we can serve them all with the existing substation. So plans are in place. We're trying to buy a parcel from Duke Energy on 73 near the CVS, and we will construct a new substation there, which will help alleviate the loading at the northern part of town.
Is that the substation that was approved just recently by the last board?
That is correct.
If I understand that correctly, for that substation, there was an opportunity to purchase that land before at a much cheaper price, and we passed on it, or I'm not really sure I understood that, but ultimately we ended up paying quite a lot of money for that land. Is there a way to prepare better so that we can be more ahead of it? Like, or maybe just explain what happened with that.
Okay.
I'm not sure if
Yeah.
I fully understand all the details.
So
I can address it unless you.
go ahead. However you want to do it.
No, I think, so we tried to get it before the price has been the same. It was never any cheaper. It was whether we were gonna go down the condemnation process. And after we were thinking about going, so it was valued less. So if you look at the tax value said one thing. And we were looking to see if we could, maybe condemn it for that price. Problem is, you're dealing with another utility, and Duke probably has a couple more attorneys than just Emily, I'm just joking. But, we realized it's probably best to see if we could negotiate, and we negotiated the price that we have now. That's the short version.
In
Well,
addition to
a
never,
clarification, they refused to negotiate whatsoever on the price or any other term. So
That's
that's
why
why the
we-
last board considered condemning it, but there is a much more complex process for condemning when you are condemning from another entity that has condemnation power and authority. So it was going to take much longer to complete the condemnation by the time that we went through the court system and court process. And as David indicated, the need is now. So we backtracked and stopped the condemnation process because it was gonna take much longer. But no, there was no negotiation whatsoever. It was what Duke said from the get-go on
Only thing
price
I was-
and every other term.
only thing I was gonna contribute to that was time, and Emily got to it. It's the time involved. In addition to number of attorneys, they're in no hurry, so they drag this out as long as they want to, while we had a more immediate need.
I gave you the 8th grade version, they gave you the college version.
Thank you.
So where we are now, we have surveyed the subdivision of the property that we're purchasing from Duke Energy. Our surveyor has submitted it for approval, and once that's approved, then we'll be able to close on the property. We're hoping that will be done by the end of this month, and the property will become the property of Huntersville, and then we can begin constructing the new substation, hopefully in the second quarter of 2024. Estimated completion of that station is the end of 2025.
Hey,
early
David.
2026.
If we're at 95% capacity now, and we're building this new substation, are we looking farther down the road at the next time we get jammed up for capacity?
Absolutely. Yes, that's something we need to, it's not a, as Larry said, it's not a set it and forget it. You know, we're constantly looking at what new loads are coming at us, what are our capacities, and when we reach a certain level, then we have to start saying, hey, we're gonna need to build another station. We start looking for land and that kind of stuff there. I will say that the station we're building on the north end of town should have adequate capacity for a number of years. That, of course, anything can happen. All things are relative, depending on the amount of development. And there was a significant developer that was planning a property at the north end of 73 that was going to be a significant load that, for the time being, it has been removed. If that were to come back into play, that could significantly impact our capacity with what we're building now and what we already have.
And how many substations do we have?
We have 3 at this time.
So
This will be the-
collectively, we're at 95% capacity?
No, we're just at 95% on one of those stations.
Gotcha.
So what we've been doing since I got here is trying to shift load from the overloaded station to some of the other 2 to buy us some time until we can get this other station built. So we've been balancing the system, trying to make sure that we can make it last until we can get this thing online. The other option we have, which is not a good option, if we get to a point where we no longer have capacity to serve new customers, we'll have no other option but to surrender those customers to other electric utilities, like Energy United and Duke Energy. We're doing everything we can to prevent that from happening.
Thank you.
Any other question on the substation issue? Okay, so we'll turn to some different technologies. Solar alternatives, the current methodology for renewable energy, solar panels on a customer's home, on their roof. The current methodology is the buy all, sell all method. So any energy produced by those panels, the town buys all of it, the customer sells all of it, and they're paid at the avoided cost rate of electricity. When you look at a customer, there is a cost involved to have facilities in place at every customer. We have to have lines to feed it, we have to have transformers, and they have to be sized big enough so that if the solar panels are not working, whatever the capacity needs are of the customer, we have to have facilities there to meet that need. So there's a cost to the utility to do that. The only cost that is offset by the solar panels is the actual cost it would have cost us to purchase the energy that they are providing. So that's where this methodology came from. They're not paid at a wholesale rate, they're paid at the retail, they're not paid at the retail rate, they're paid at the wholesale rate. The methodology that I'm recommending for February 1st for FY25 is moving to more of a net billing methodology. And basically, the customers that have solar panels would be able to use the energy that they're producing for their own use. If they don't meet all of their needs with the solar panel, then they would still purchase energy from the utility. If they produce more than what they're using, then the utility would buy it at the wholesale rate. So it's been recommended by an environmental law firm that this is the best method for us to move forward. There were some challenges, legal challenges about the buy all, sell all methodology, whether it was legal or not. And this is the recommendation that we move to this different rate. Basically, the customer gets more benefit from their solar panels. Any questions on that? Yes, ma'am.
Is solar the only renewable energy source that's kind of in play right now with electricities, or have you ever looked at other options?
Like wind and all the other,
Or biopower,
Yep.
which is kind of newer, and wind?
Yeah, I mean, as far as renewable energy, you're looking at wind, solar, hydro, even some places use hog waste.
Yeah. the bio.
So when you're talking about customer alternatives, for the overwhelming majority is going to be a solar alternative.
Do you know how many people currently have solar with electricities?
I think at the present time, there is one customer that has solar.
probably because of
Right.
Yeah.
our current
Yeah.
policy.
And
So
that was
there's
the
no
argument.
advantage, zero for them.
Yeah. I mean, I'll say that's why we have, I mean, we're an electricities customer, and that is one of the reasons why we haven't considered it.
Exactly.
Do we know, and then maybe this was asked, we're getting there, you know when this policy will be, I see up there, I assume y'all have a policy drafted or working on one that you will send to Emily to review, and we'll ultimately bring that back to the board?
That's correct. Through the budget process for FY25, I'll present or recommend a rate for the renewable energy that changes to a net billing methodology. And then through the review process, the board will have the final say as whether a yes or a no. Some of the service enhancements that we're working on, the current billing software that we use is in the process of being updated. We're changing to a different vendor that will allow electronic payment of electric bills, which we currently don't have that capability. That is something that customers have been asking for quite some time. The problem before is that we didn't have the technology in place to be able to do that. So going on 2 years now, we've been working toward what we need to put in place so that we have that capability. We've got several things going in motion concurrently. Our best estimate at this time is by the end of September of 2024, we should have all that implemented and be able to go to electronic billing. Another technology that we're working toward is automated meter integration, or AMI meters. We currently have what we call AMR meters, which is radio reads. So the old time meters used to have a person walk by and look at every meter on your system, write down what the reading was. They would take that back to the office. They would calculate the bill based on, you know, how much have you used since the last time we read. AMR meters made it to where you could put one man in a truck and he could drive around and get all the readings radio direct, and it would upload to a computer, and then the billing system would take it from there. The AMI is just the next iteration of technology, and it basically allows a two-way portal between the electric utility and the customer. So a customer can log into their account, they can see exactly how much energy they're using at any given point in time, and they can monitor their energy use that way. It gives them a lot more flexibility as far as being able to say, hey, I'm using most electricity at this time of the day. Maybe I can shift some of what I'm using to different times to help reduce their bill. Last year, about this time, we applied for a GRIP grant. It's a federal grant, and the grant money would pay 75% of the cost of this technology to be installed. We were unsuccessful last year. We did not receive that grant. We have reapplied this year, learned from our mistakes last year, and hopefully we'll have better success this year. So I got ahead of myself. This next slide just basically reiterates everything I just said. The AMI meters also give us points because they are communicating electronically. We can see, we can identify each electric meter on the system. We can also tell from that if they've lost power. It gives us a lot more flexibility and a lot more service enhancements as far as responding to outages, responding more efficiently. If we can see that, hey, we got 1,000 customers out over here and 10 over here, we're gonna go get the 1,000 on first and then get the 10. It's just a strategy to get the most customers back on in the shortest amount of time. So all of that rolls into that AMI meter option that we're looking at. Any questions that I can answer for you? Yes, ma'am?
I know that, I think it's Duke who allows like a discount for installing like electric vehicle chargers at their house. When it comes to our policy enhancements, are we looking at something like that for electricities?
Not at this time, no. What we are looking at is an EV charger rate that would better align with that type of equipment, but we don't offer that at this time. We're not considering that at this time. And when you put it in perspective, Duke has several millions of customers in the state. The town of Huntersville has 8,500. So there's some economies of scale that allow them to offer some things that we don't.
Are there other towns considering that you know of?
Not that I know of.
You know, as far as that are electricities member or whatnot?
I've not heard of any. No.
You mentioned you're doing I own an EV, so kind of perk my ears here. What, an EV rate, how would you determine whether an EV's plugged in or
We wouldn't
the
be able to
dishwasher's
determine
going?
that on an individual home, but if a company wanted to install an EV charger at a specific public location, and we had to meter and serve that charger, then we would need a rate to be able to meter that and charge accordingly.
Gotcha, okay, thanks.
Okay, so to clarify, because I didn't quite hear the first part of your answer. You said that like an EV charger rate would possibly, it would only apply to like public charging? Did you say that you can also tell when something's being charged at an individual home?
No, we don't have the capability of
Okay.
knowing, this residence has an EV charger, and we charge them a rate for that. The EV charger rate would just be for standalone EV chargers as they're installed.
Okay, thanks, yeah, sorry, I just couldn't hear you.
No problem. That is all I have, unless there are more questions.
I have one, but it may not be specifically for you, David, and it may be for Anthony or Miss Jackie or Emily maybe. My question is, in some neighborhoods, why do we have like 2 different or maybe even 3 different service providers? Is that contractual or?
Yeah, so basically, we don't control that, so there were, I'm gonna just say legislative boundaries set, and Emily and David can jump in there, but there are areas where they can compete for, but as you saw sort of on the map in this general, you can't, if those were exact, you can't go outside those boundaries.
Okay.
They're protected boundaries that Duke, you're gonna serve this, Energy United, you're gonna serve that, Electric Cities, you're gonna serve that. There are some small areas where there are some competition, but other than that, they're automatically set. It doesn't go by the neighborhoods. You would think, why in the whole neighborhood served by this or that? Unfortunately, probably when those lines were run, maybe it was a blank, big piece of property, then it gets subdivided, and it's already, determined.
Okay.
So that's, y'all can add to that, David or Emily.
The only other thing I would add is if a provider like Duke Energy already served a particular area and then the territory was assigned, then they would continue to serve whatever they already had. But, the new service provider that had that territory would serve everything else.
Okay.
So as developments popped up, what was legacy remained with the original provider, and then the new provider would take whatever else was built.
Okay. Thank you.
Dave, I'm sorry if you mentioned this before, but did you say something about the off-peak charging rates?
I did not mention that, no. But that is something that may come down in a few more years because of the EV chargers and the amount of load they put on the system. If everybody were to charge their cars at the same time every day, it would put quite a burden on the electric system. And we're not seeing a need to go to that yet, but if it does become an issue, then we would change to more of a time of use rate, which would encourage people to charge in the off-peak hours versus the on-peak hours.
Thank you.
Yeah, just one. Do you have the current comparisons of what the rates are between 3 providers in Huntersville?
You mean for residential?
Yeah, sorry, yes.
I don't have that information today. I can get it and send it to you.
Yeah, that would be great, thanks.
Any other questions, David? And if it's, I know we're running a little bit ahead, but if okay, maybe we could knock out a little bit of Michael, maybe all, but I'm sure he's got a few pictures and slides, but.
You always make me hurry, so I'll hurry like I always do.
Okay, as we transition then, so Michael had his birthday yesterday. Everybody got to say happy birthday for that. Michael hit his 25th year, Michael will hit his 25th anniversary at the town later this year. So thankful for that service too, Michael. Served as Parks and Rec Director since 2007. Couple of unique facts about the Parks Department. Specifically, our larger parks are on land owned by the county. So there are some of the smaller parks where we bought the land, but as a general rule, say examples of the county owns the land are Bradford, Berry, Hap, and North Neck Park. We also do an awful lot of things with agreements with other entities. What I mean when I say that is the county is constructing a lot of the greenways in town. We contract with the school systems, that was plural, more than one, about joint use agreements for the gyms, which is very cost effective for us. And we do agreements on, longer term agreements on the use of our synthetic turf fields. Michael, take it away.
Thank you. Everybody can hear me? We're good? Like Jackie mentioned, Parks Department's actually, we're in our 29th year providing Parks and Rec services, and if it wasn't for a lot of these agreements that Jackie mentioned, the services and facilities we provide would never have been possible. So we have 12 joint use agreements with 4 different school systems, so community college, CSD, charter school, and CMS. We joke around, but we got agreements for dumpsters as well, so we'll do agreements no matter what it is. With American Legion, we want to put a dumpster in the middle of a brand new park, so we partnered with a dumpster agreement. So anything we can do to save money and save resources, we do that. Land, so we have 6 land lease agreements with Mecklenburg County, like Jackie mentioned. So once again, we haven't had to purchase much land when it came to Parks and Rec. And so hold on, where's that at? I was thinking that was gonna slide it for me. So we track park visitors. So we have our 4 largest parks is Bradford Park, Berry Park, North Mac Park, and Huntsville Athletic Park. We've been tracking visitors to those parks since 2010. So we have a traffic counter that counts the vehicle come in. We use a national average of 2.5 people per vehicle. And so for the last 13 years, we've been tracking that. And you can tell when COVID hit in 2020, it kind of dropped down a little bit. And then since that time, in the last 2 years after COVID, it's went up about 10% per year at those exact same locations. And then from last year till 2010, those same parks ended up having about 600,000 more visitors. Well, those counters we used all those years were the tubes. So the tubes would crack, they get clogged up with debris. So there's newer technology out there now. The count vehicle is a little more efficient. So you see the big jump in this last fiscal year is related to new counters we have. So there's no tubes. It just picks up the vibration of the vehicle riding through. So I know we're still growing with park visitors, but a lot of that's probably, we're counting more accurate now with the number of vehicles coming to our park. So that's always good information is to look at, what's the growth in different parks, what's the most used park. Bradford Park is the most used park that we have in our park system. Also, how do we determine what type of amenities we put in a park? We do a lot of different things. One of the things we always try to do is tracking the different athletic programs and how many participants, how's that growing, or some of them not growing. Obviously, a lot of these, I'm not going into details with this, but this is just good information to have when we try and decide what we're going to put in a park. What programs are growing. Some of these athletic programs become more difficult to track because a lot of them maybe are travel teams or club teams that aren't part of a recreation group. So these numbers aren't exact because there's other groups who have participants that live in Harmsville that we don't know of. But this is just a good graph to kind of keep up with the trends in the area.
I see one notable exception there.
Oh, the thing ain't up there. I keep on hitting that and moving forward. So those are the graphs I was just talking about. So we're tracking the growth. Also, you can see where COVID took an impact, but for the most part, most of the programs are back to where they were pre-COVID, if not higher. And these aren't all the sports. This is just an example of how we track those users for the different events and programs. So program wait lists. So we've been the last couple of years, after COVID, we're starting to see a lot more waiting lists in our programs. It used to just be summer camp. We've always had a huge wait list, but now it's hitting other programs. During COVID, we've noticed we were getting calls in our office during COVID. And you could tell these people had never been to the parks. They were asking questions about when is it open, when is it closed, what's in this park, what's in that park. So more people were at home, more people working remote. So we had a lot of new park users who never used our parks before. And I think that also turned into more people joining programs that we offered. So we've seen a huge trend uptick in a lot of programs that we haven't seen before as well. So we've been tracking this last couple of years. 258 programs, total of 5,500 participants, and we had 654 on the wait list. I think the year before we had like 637. We have added more programs, more evenings, programs that are full. We're offering nights and mornings, just trying to take more participants. Some of that we can't because of space. Some of them we can't do because of staffing, and some of them might be related to transportation, like the after-school program. There's only so much transportation we can get to after-school programs. So we're still looking for new ways. Turning the Old Town Hall to a community space that we can offer more programs will help tremendously. We can add another after-school site. We can add another summer camp site. So once again, those are programs we have wait lists on. So that's going to be very beneficial. So we're excited about that. Events, I know seen a lot of you all at the events this past year. So we do just over 30 events a year, most of those at Veterans Park, but we also do some at other parks as well. We did 30 events, about 25,000 attendees. Those are the largest events are Huntsville Hay Days, which is kind of like our Halloween event, Hello Huntersville, Huntsville Christmas, and Veterans Day Parade. So those are some of our bigger events. Veterans Park, as you all know, the lawn area is very small, so it's not like a place you can hold a concert for 3,000 people. So in some of these slides about future projects is the idea of actually having an amphitheater at a bigger location to have bigger crowds when you have a bigger performer to come. And then some other program highlights. Also, we do senior programs, preschool programs. I think the youngest kid in our program is 3. I think we have an 82-year-old that plays senior softball. So once again, the broad range of ages that participate in our programs. We do story walks. We do also have a mobile rec vehicle now that we'll take to different parks around town, but we also will go to the communities who don't have parks and provide recreation programs such as Huntington Green and so forth. So if there's a community that wants us to come out, we drive out there. There's crafts, there's sports games in this vehicle that you can pull out and bring the recreation to those who don't have parks nearby. All right, so once again, so how do we determine what's in a park? So we do a Parks and Rec master plan, which is for your whole park system. So it's like a 30,000-foot view looking down at your town. And so usually this is about a year process. You have public input meetings, you have, obviously you do surveys, you look at what you currently have, what amenities you currently have, what shape they're in, where you have parkland, where you need future parkland. And so in 2020, that plan was approved. And you kind of look 10 years out, but a community growing as fast as Huntersville, we usually update it every 7 years because things change dramatically. So this slide here, if you look to the left, are some key findings, some of the key findings that we found that top requested amenities. In the 25 years I've been here, greenways and trails have always been the top requested amenity no matter what we did. Even a statistically valid survey would always show that as well. This survey was not statistically valid, but once again, you see the top 10 amenities requested back then. There was only one sport that was in that top 10, and that was disc golf. Obviously, you've seen the stats of people who participate in soccer and baseball is a big number, but sometimes you kind of forget about all the other users who do not play sports. So that's always interesting. You see a lot of that too. And we asked about recreation programs, which you're interested in. Concerts and festivals always number one. And then we also have an area where you can put you can do comments. So you answer the survey question, but give us comments, and we always get a lot of comments. So the last survey, I think we had like 500 comments. We try to go through those, see what the common themes they are, and you see some of those common themes about can't get to a park without getting in a car, lack of parking, lack of parks west of I-77. This is all back in 2020. And then the graph to the right has some of the amenity types. It shows currently what we have, and then it shows needed by 2030. And a lot of that is based on the current use of the parks, the capacity of the parks. We know what capacity is left in those parks, the growth of the town, using information from the plan department. And so in the colors you see on this graph, in red is what's been completed since 2020. So we want to see, are we actually implementing the plan? Are we listening to the residents, what they told us back in 2020? Are we trying to work towards that? And so in red, you see there's 20 acres of parkland. So that 25 acres purchased on Armitage Road, 5 acres will be for fire station. The other 20 acres will be for a future park, which we'll talk a little bit about. And then also, we added 352 additional parking spaces in our existing parks. Once again, the common theme, and also we didn't need them to tell us this, we know it. There wasn't enough parking at our heavily used parks, such as Berry Park and Bradford Park. So we've added a lot of parking there, so now you don't have to park in the mud and get a tow truck to pull you out. You actually park on the surface and be able to leave without going through that mess. So in red is what was completed, so you see those. The 10,000 square feet for indoor rec space, that is the Lake Norman Charter School that we started using in 2020. And then the 10,000 in the blue, which we'll talk about, is the new agreement that the board just approved last year. And then the 24,000 would be if we expand the rec center. So if you look at indoor rec space, if all those things happen, we're pretty much meeting that 44,000 square feet needed by 2030. And I won't read through all these, but you can see, and blue is what within current projects, green is what you'll see in potential future projects. So trying to chip at that and try to meet those needs. And one thing, I mean, back in 2020, pickleball wasn't that big of a deal. So obviously, this is a good example why things changed so quickly. Obviously, I think COVID had a big part of that too, but once people started playing it, it's exploded. So you ask most people today, okay, if you only need 8 pickleball courts, yeah, I think for the whole town for the next 10 years, I think people will say you're crazy because things change. And so we're about halfway point of the master plan needing to be updated. So we're about 3.5 years in. I mentioned every 7 years you want to update it. So we kind of put out a survey. A lot of those questions are similar to the last one. And then what we're doing is we're comparing what those survey results from the same question was saying in 2020 compared to 2024. So as of today, we're around 600 survey results. I think we're keeping open until end of February. And so we're just kind of taking a snapshot of some of those questions of what facilities they've used in the last 12 months. What's highlighted is the ones in 2020 that were on there that are not on there in 2024. And then the yellow in 2024 are ones that have bumped up. Obviously, Rosedale Nature Park was not even here until 2 years ago this month was open, and it's up to number 4. Anybody's been out to that park, that is a park. So we have traffic counters that we move around as well. So we've had a traffic count at Rosedale Nature Park, just counts the vehicles, don't count all the people that walk there. But we had 160,000 visitors at that little park. That neighborhood park has no athletic fields, no athletic courts. It's a natural play area, overlook area, some small trails, and a playground. And the people, when we did the master plan for Rosedale Nature Park, we went to the community to see what they wanted. And I think we delivered one, and obviously it's been, usually 2 years in, you'll see the amount of attendance kind of flatten off. We're not seeing that. And then we ask questions about, the conditions of the parks and so forth. So we want to see, obviously, the attendance of the parks have went up a lot. More needs for day-to-day maintenance on parks that get heavy use. So we want to see how are we doing with the conditions of the park. So, it's got a little better. So we want to at least be good or excellent. So it went 6% fair down to 5%. So that's a little bit better. Do existing parks and facilities meet your needs? That get a little bit better as well if you look at agree and strongly agree. And we're asking also, can you reasonably bike or walk to a park? And that has changed a little bit, but with the next couple of slides, you'll see hopefully that'll change dramatically in the next 3 or 4 years. Top requested amenities. So once again, what I did here is what's highlighted in yellow. That was in 2020's top 10, is not in 2024's top 10, and then it shows the yellows who have jumped in. Once again, pickleball was not a top 10 2020. Now it's snuck in there in the top 10. And also water features such as small lakes and ponds. People like to see some more of that in parks. But once again, greenways, hiking trails, playgrounds, splash pads. We did have our first dog park we built since 2020, which is part of Rosedale. So we did finally offer our first dog park. Some other information asking about programs. Have your family participate in a program in the last 12 months? That's went up, so that's good, which we knew based on the information that we have wait lists a lot of our programs. Also, and there's backup information for all these answers. So like, do you feel informed about Huntsville recreation programs and events? Obviously, people feel like they're more informed now than they were in 2020. And we also asked them questions, how are you finding out about that? And once the survey is closed, all this information will go to everybody. And then we asked, how would you rate the recreation programs? And that's got better as well. So it went from 79% good or excellent to 87% good or excellent. So it's moving in the right direction. And then like I mentioned, so with the public input site we use now, I think SurveyMonkey 2020, we use this new site this year. And the thing I like about the general comments is that the old survey, we would have to go through all those comments and try to see which ones were similar. Here, when you go in, you can see a comment that you would like to make that's already on there. So you can just click the agree button. So these are like the top 7 or 8 agreed on. So people are saying we need longer greenway trails. Well, a lot of longer greenway trails are coming in the next couple of years, so that's good. So there's other stuff there. I know Nick probably likes the one about we need more passive parks. Not everyone plays pickleball. So that was the third most popular comment. But you can see those comments, and once again, we'll share all these comments once we close the survey. And we'll just go through some of the recent completed projects. So Hunters Athletic Park, back in 2009, 2010, was one of the first public parks to do synthetic turf infields. And so we got a good 13 years out of synthetic turf, which is pretty good. Typically, you're looking at 8 to 10 years. So we had it on 2 smaller fields. The 2 bigger fields we did not. Lake Norman Charter School uses the 2 larger fields. And so when it was time to replace the 2 smaller, we wanted to go and do all 4 fields. And so we have a partnership with them where they give $150,000 towards the project since they use 2 of those fields. So now we have 4 infields that are all synthetic turf. Slide to the left is when we're about to renovate that one, and the slide to the right is a new field. We also replaced athletic field lights. We changed them over to LED. Those lights were about 25, 26 years old, so now those 4 fields have all LED lighting as well. So as we got older lighting systems we need to replace, we're going with LED. If we're adding new lighting to fields that are new, we're going with LED. It saves a lot of money. Weymouth Park, so there's park improvements that the town is doing, and there's park improvements that the county is doing. So some of the ones that the town has finished up was retrofitting and redoing the basketball courts. There's a lot of street hockey that's been going on at Weymouth for the last 12 to 13 years. So we're trying to find a way to make our court multi-use. So we still have the 2 basketball courts, but we also now have a hockey ring, and we have a lot of great feedback on the use of that. So that's turned out well. We used to have a gravel walking trail. Obviously, if you were on a walker or you had a stroller or anything like that, it wasn't accessible. The gravel wash out. So that trail is accessible and paved, and then getting a lot more use now. Abernathy Park, so I'm not sure if y'all noticed this. I know Catherine does. What do you notice, Catherine? I got it spelled right. So for the last, we learned something. So when we're doing the history of Huntersville, we found out James Abernathy's last name, who this person donated the park to the town, is with an E. So for the last 30 years, or how long the park's been around before I was here, it was spelled with an A. So the new signage that's going is going to be spelled right. And now this is spelled right. So thanks to Catherine's research. So as part of Abernathy Park, originally we talked about getting rid of the baseball field. You know, there's a lot of neighbors right close by, the lights and the dust and all that. But once again, we need more ball fields, so we kind of adjusted our plan. So we did our master plan process, got input from the community, and then we got the Parks and Rec Trust Fund provides Parks and Rec grants that you apply for, very competitive. Last year, for the first time, they offered a new grant called Accessibility for Parks. So we applied for that grant. So half of this, 50% of the cost of this park project actually came from that grant through the state. And so that is to provide more accessible amenities within a park. So the playground to the right was the old playground. It was about 15 years old. So if you get 15 years out of a playground, that's pretty good. The new playground to the left is the one we just finished. So the playground to the left has poured and rubber surfacing, so you get wheelchairs up to the playground. It also has ramps that you can get a wheelchair actually onto the main structure. It also has a rocker the wheelchair can get onto. It has a merry-go-round that a wheelchair can roll onto as well. It's got ADA swing. And then the big problem, and we knew this, but the community told us to, Glendale's a cut-through road. The playground and the basketball court are within like 10 feet of that road. So the concerns of the safety, so we moved the playground away from the street, and the new basketball court we moved away from the street. So that's the old basketball court on the left, new basketball court on the right. That's away from the main road. We also added a walking trail around the perimeter. We just got one small section to finish, but I see a lot of people now, a lot of seniors now walking that trail, which go back and forth because it's not completed, but hopefully next 2 weeks that back section will be completed. Got a new shelter between the playground and the basketball court. And then all 6 of our fitness stations, you can roll up a wheelchair to one side and exercise. So it's accessible, all of them are accessible for wheelchairs. And then public art, a lot of public art, obviously. So back, well, I won't say that, we ain't got there yet. So the art piece on the vine, that's to the left. And then the peace poles that all the schools participated, those are North Meck Park. And then the Sculptor, which is the latest one that was implemented. And so it's hard to believe, but since 2019, we've added, 18 art locations in downtown area. And all those came from sponsorships, donations, and grants. And Tracy and the Public Art Committee did a great job with all that. So when people ask, back in 2019, we didn't have any art downtown, but now we have. I mean, you can walk around downtown for a good hour to see all the art pieces around town. Our current projects, as you can tell, pretty heavy on trails and greenways. So once again, we're listening to the community, and people who want longer greenway trails are going to get them. So Torrance Creek Trib number 2, which goes from back of Rosedale and goes up under 77, which the Art Science Council is doing a lighted art inside the tunnel. So that's going to be exciting, and connects to the park and ride. And this, to me, is probably one of the coolest trails in Mecklenburg County, because most of this is boardwalk, and it turns through the trees, rock outcrops, all shade. When they do a boardwalk, I mean, you don't take hardly any trees down. So, I mean, when you get on that trail, I feel like that trail's been there forever, because you've got a great canopy. So when you're summertime walking through this trail, it's gonna be really cool. So that's exciting. And, hopefully it'll be done spring or summer of this year. And once again, this is a huge connection from east to west to get under 77. So that tunnel goes under 77 and connects to the park and ride. The town participated with $425,000, and the construction was about $7 million. So those are one of those partnerships that the town, this is one of the first partnerships the town did with the county to kind of fast track a project. The North Mac Park Greenway, this is more connecting Harvest Point and the Hamptons to North Mac Park, but also there'll be a trailhead behind CVS, so be a couple of parking spots there as well, but people who are walking up and down Sanford Road could cut through there to access the Greenway into North Mac Park. Plans are complete. I think we've got one easement left to get a hold of before we can start, so hopefully we can start summer of 2024, and this is just under 1 mile.
We got all easements. We're good.
Got them all now?
Yeah.
All right, so that's good news. So the park at Huntsville Greenway, hopefully the next month or so we'll have a contract to you to start the design of that. This is a CRTPO grant, 50% of that grant, 50% of the cost, which is 1.75. So this was the first non-motorized CRTPO grant the town has ever received, as far as I know. So that was exciting. The project's based off its top 5 priority in our bike plan, 1.6 miles. So it goes from the existing Torrance Creek Greenway, goes through the business park up to Reese Boulevard. So once again, all those apartments there, it'll all be connected with the rest of the Greenway that's currently there. Lower McDowell Creek Greenway, this is one of those partnerships. The town committed $1.8 million for the design. And the last estimates that I've seen is $14.1 million to build. So once again, the amount of money we're investing to get a project done and get it done sooner has been great. About 3.6 miles from Gilly Road, the new parking lot for the trailhead of Gilly Road.
No, that wasn't here. They gave, 3.59 miles is actually from Bates Ford all the way to Burkdale, the full McDowell.
Okay, so that's not from star to star.
Yeah, that one's probably about 9.
So that's currently in design. The south prong of the Clark Creek Greenway, North Church Street, southeast Asbury Chapel. Once again, another partnership, $1.5 million. County has committed, estimated $10 million for that project. Currently in design, about 3 miles. Once again, this is finally, we get a lot of questions about when you're gonna get greenways out to the east part of town. So park-wise, we've got a lot of parks on the east side of town, not much on the west. Greenways, have a lot on the west, but not as much on the east. So now trying to go out towards the eastern part of Huntersville.
Well, I think it's important on these projects like this, these projects were nowhere near the top of the list to get funded in the county capital campaign. And we were able to partner thanks to, obviously, our staff and Mecklenburg County Commissioner Elaine Powell and Dina Dioria, County Manager, for working with us. These projects, they were way out. But with the partnership, we were able to make these projects come to fruition and move up the list a whole lot sooner. So it's great examples of partnerships.
Yeah, and I told Anthony he was crazy that we would get 2 of those projects back to back, and they funded both of them.
Michael, I have just one question on that one. Because I was just looking at the map and where, like, what neighborhoods, or like where there's access points to that greenway. And I see there's one in Vermillion. Is that what that little red line?
Yeah, so it goes right through Vermillion.
Is there access to, like, for Pottstown residents in the plan? I know they're a little further.
They would probably have to go through the neighborhood connections to go down towards like Delwood Drive. So they would have to use the existing sidewalks. Because a lot of times you'll have to use sidewalks to get to the greenway. So here, we call them overland connectors. But here you would have sidewalks through Vermillion that you would actually connect to. Because the trail actually doesn't come that far south. Now, as I said, they're getting further down in design of this. They might make a connection to Weymouth Flying Field or something if they feel like that's beneficial or not. But they're not down to the details of actually where all the connections will be. But looking at where Delwood is, you're going to have to use some internal sidewalks to get up to the trail. Now, this one we're not involved with, even though this is a very important connection. This is Lower McDowell going up north towards Burkdale. So the red and purple is what they're currently working on, water treatment plant that you see there. And then when I mentioned overland connectors, the existing sidewalk at Burkdale Commons Parkway will be used to get up to Highway 73. And then we'll talk a little bit about hopefully getting a pedestrian bridge to get over 73. And so here we have the pedestrian bridge. So hopefully we'll find out February 21st if our CRTPO grant of $3.1 million will be approved, which will get the greenway over 73. And so that's the slide. The picture to the left is a picture of that bridge going over 73, going down to Burkdale, and then connecting to the greenway that's behind the movie theater. That will be huge. If that does not happen, there's still pedestrian crossings. As they widen 73, there'll be a Z crossing. But we feel pretty good right now. I think it's ranking 4th out of 11 projects, so it's being recommended to be approved. So we'll be shocked if it's not approved. And then the slide to the right, that is the tunnel under Interstate 77. But we also received a $2.6 million CRTPO grant for a tunnel under 21. So you won't have, 5 years from now, you won't have to cross 21 at a light. But between now and then, when 21 is complete, there'll be a new traffic light at Rehoboth that you would walk across that grade. But in 5 years, eventually we'll be able to go under 21. And, I want to mention this too. So if we get the $3.1 million for the pedestrian bridge, I was just looking back at how much grants and partnerships we've had the last 20 years. That'll put us over $20 million in grants for parks and greenways, so that's huge. And this map here kind of just shows all those lines starting to connect together. And the one thing I never thought it would happen. And I would say NCDOT is a lot more open to non-motorized transportation than they've ever been before. But if you get on the greenway at downtown Greenway behind 760, and you head to the west, you'll go under Highway 21, you'll go under 77, you'll go under Gilead twice, and you'll go over Highway 73. 7 miles from downtown up to Burkdale, and you will not have to cross one major state highway, which I thought that would have been never possible. So to me, in 5 years to be able to do that walk, it's going to be awesome. And once again, that wouldn't happen with long-term planning, and also with NCODT now more interested in helping non-motorized projects as well. All right, so we're actually building our first splash pad, so it's under construction at North Mac Park. All those surveys we've heard over the years, people want splash pads, so we're delivering our first one at North Mac. Should be open this summer. It's kind of at the entrance of the park, kind of near where the playground is. So that's on the left, it's under construction. To the right is what you'll see once it's completed. Richard Berry Park. So the one complaints, we get a lot of complaints at Berry Park, also about parking, but also about the restroom. We got one restroom all the way at the bottom of the park. Heavily used park. There's always lines to the women's bathroom all the time when there's big events, so this will definitely be a huge benefit. I get all the Google reviews. When we get Google reviews, I get those emails, and this is the one we always get complaints about. The lines at the restrooms, can't find parking, adding about 100 new parking spots, doubling the size of the capacity of restrooms. This restroom will be at the top of the park, so to disperse the crowds as well. I mentioned Lake Norman Charter Elementary, so they're building a new elementary school next to Fire Station number 4 on McElwain, and we approved our 4th joint use agreement with them, so this will give us 4 gyms with Lake Norman Charter. Been great partnership over the years. Our first one was in 2008, so also we're 15 years into that agreement. So this new agreement will be for 15 years, but also extend the other 3 agreements 15 more years. So it'll tie those 4 gyms down for 15 years. Anticipate completion August 26. We invested $500,000. Once again, this is one on that slide of where we need more indoor recreation space. And then these are showing the improvements that the county will be working on this year through their grant. I know Bobby was really helpful in getting the county to push some of their grant funds to this project. So this is in addition to what we're doing. Tennis court will be for pickleball, brand new playground, accessible playground, shelters, fitness equipment, bocce courts, just table games, a bunch of additional parking. And we do have some funds held to the side because we're going to redo the parking as partnership with the county as well. So hopefully in the next 12 to 18 months, they're hoping all that will be complete. So, 2 of our older parks, being Abernathy and Wamer, are definitely being renovated to be, really nice parks. Now, once again, you do new improvements to parks, guess what happened? More people come to your parks. Mm-hmm. So once again, there's always concern about parking. And then some potential future projects. So when we were looking at splash pad, we looked at 2 sites. We looked at Wamer Park and North Mac Park. So we did some concepts, layouts, how they would work at different sites. The board at that time decided to do North Mac first, and one of the reasons was that they were concerned if we only had 1 splash pad in town, and it was at Wamer, and that was the only one we had, that Wamer would be overran with people. So the idea was, let's do one at North Mac. It's a bigger park, can hold more people, and the plan was to do a second one at Wamer, so that then you have 2, you don't have everybody going to one location. And the goal with the splash pad when we designed them is that a lot of these features you can change out. So if we built another one at Wamer, that actually one summer you would see that, and the next summer you could switch out the components with the one for North Mac and flip them, so it feels like it's a new splash pad when really it's not. So that's one of the projects, and that's.
Michael, you'll have more shade than is shown in that picture.
Yes. Yeah. Well, this site's a little bit tighter, so kind of how much shade you can get, but yeah, we're providing shade. We're providing 3 shade covers at North Mac Park. So we'd at least have 1 or 2 around that. Yeah. Rama Church Park Fire Station site, I mentioned about the 20 acres. So our goal next year is to master plan that park. I mentioned there's 2 levels of master planning for your park system. You got a comprehensive plan, and then you got your park-specific master plan, and that's what we're looking for next year with this site. And not having your master plan or park-specific master plan, when you apply for those state grants, if you don't have those plans and you don't have public input, your chances of getting them are very slim. So we've been successful in getting those grants because we're showing the public input. So once again, we would go back out to the community, have public input meetings about this specific site. The one thing we do, for example, Rosedale, you do have to set the perimeters of what can actually go in the park. So when we had Rosedale Nature Park public input, you're not gonna have soccer fields, you're not gonna have baseball fields, none of that stuff, because it doesn't fit with the environment around you and the landscape. So once again, this site's 20 acres. Also trying to keep as much of the wood buffer that you have there, but once again, we'll go back to the community and get their input. So usually what we do is next year, do the public input, do the master plan, and then be in position to apply for grants to help build the park. And also you gotta lay out where the fire station would go. And I mentioned parkland, so we look at, this is from our park master plan of where we feel like there's a need for future parkland. And that's based on where we don't have parkland, where future development's going, and so forth. So the bubble to the top is pretty close to the land that was just purchased for Rama Church. It's just right on the border of that. So this is kind of what we use to look at for future parkland. And then Bradford Park Phase 3. Bradford Park's a 210 acre park, multi-phases. When a park is this big, most communities don't build all at one time, you build in phases, so we built 2 phases so far, which is in like the darker green with the softball and soccer fields, and of course there's disc golf out there as well. So this master plan for this park is 20 years old, so it would have to be updated. But typically we're not gonna update a plan unless we're gonna actually do something the next couple of years. So the goal will be, if the town decides they wanna move on to the next phase, we would redo this plan because obviously 20 years ago things have changed. We talked to the town of Davidson. They would be interested in participating in adding fields. They need more fields as well. We currently operate this park in joint with Davidson. We operate it, they pay 20% of the cost, and they get 20% of the reserved field usage. And so that's been going on since 2009. Been a great partnership. It's on county land. And that's just saying what potential amenities could go in there. But once again, we would get community input. And then Holbrook Park, and one of those bubbles that shows more parkland downtown, obviously with more residential moving into downtown Huntersville. One of the goals was always how can we, if land became available, how can we expand Holbrook Park and make it bigger? So that's just showing a green rectangle of land in that area if it became available, maybe adding that to the park and being more passive. So when everybody's living downtown, they have green space to go to, so it'd be more passive. So that's something if land on 115 around there becomes available, an opportunity to purchase to expand the park, preserve some natural areas downtown.
How much space is there?
So Holbrook's about 8 acres, and obviously if you take out 760, I think you might get you about 14, 15 acres total if you add the rest of that in that box, not counting Cashins and 760. And I mentioned Huntsville Recreation expansion. So when we built the Huntsville Recreation Center, like we've known over the years that we're going to need more space. So on the west side of the building, if you look at the steel structure inside the building, you can tell it's a lot more beefed up than it is on the east side. And the purpose of that was we can attach a new building, expansion on the west side. So that red square is where that expansion would happen, moving towards the entrance of Huntsville Athletic Park. So it would pretty much double the space of the rec center. And obviously, there's many benefits to that, obviously, with holding more events, holding more programs, expanding programs, and so forth. And we also, I mentioned looking at an amphitheater at a bigger site. We looked at potentially this site, or maybe Berry Park as being a site for a larger amphitheater that could hold a few thousand people. This site is good because we have all the CPC's parking. So all the CPC's parking is part of our joint use agreement. So we didn't have to pay for any parking when we built the rec center. CPC provided 200 new parking spaces there. We can use weekends, they don't have classes really, so we get all their parking. The CDL lot, if we ever need it, we can use that for overflow parking as well, so that's one of those partnerships. But that is kind of another project that we've been talking about that's kind of different levels of the CIP, but I think that is my last slide. Yes. And then Patty's gonna pay for it all.
Yeah. Any further questions?
May have missed it. Parades, do they fall under your umbrella?
Yes, we do one parade, Veterans Day parade, yeah.
Cool.
One question, I don't know if it's more a Michael question or an Anthony question, but the one thing I've been curious about, and I saw in the Parks Master Plan, the goal is 355 additional acres, and so far we've acquired 20. And then I looked up which the 2040 plan seems to match that with their one of their recommendations being consider a larger town role in passive open space acquisition. So I've just wondered, what has the approach been to date, like so far, in terms of looking at land acquisition for
I would
parks?
say, so not all parkland's equal, meaning if you're buying, the county does a lot of nature preserves and preserving land where you don't want ball fields, they won't allow ball fields. So I guess from when we did that master plan, that 355 acres is probably more knowing that over the next 10, 15, 20 years, you're gonna need more active space as well. But that doesn't mean the whole park has to be active. So the county, I mean, they're buying hundreds of acres here and there. Some of it might be for active, a lot of it's maybe to preserve. So it's kind of a balance of where the land is. It's in an area that's kind of critical watershed area or sensitive area. They don't want development, which there shouldn't be development. So it depends on where the land is and what the needs are for future active spaces. But I think 355 acres for us was mostly, once again, not the whole park being athletic facilities, but we're gonna need more athletic facilities, we know that. So that 355 acres was like a mix of preserving part of the land, and where it's more flat or suitable, where you're not clearing trees, you try to put your active space, which we usually try to do. So it's kind of a mix. It just depends on where the land's available to.
But to get at your question, it may be that, the county may buy the land. We may just do like we do a lot of other things. How much the town buys, I don't know. And this may not take into account all of, we got more green space than probably anywhere in the, I won't say the country, but we're in a watershed.
Yeah.
So we've got tons of green space, that, I don't know how that applies up here, et cetera, but, we're typically, for larger pieces of land, gonna count on the county, just like Jackie said earlier. Those partnerships seem to make sense. They own it, they're large sums of money, and we come in and, participate with them. That's probably where to go. You probably won't see us coming to the board and say, let's go buy a couple hundred acres of parkland.
Now, I think where you would see is more of the downtown pieces. The county probably not gonna come in and buy 1 or 2 acres next to Holbrook. That's gonna probably be on us. But like Anthony said, if there's 250 acres out there, it's gonna probably be the county.
Thank you.
I think that's it.
That's
Any
all.
other questions?
All right. We're gonna break for lunch. You're gonna humor me again. So today's fun activity to get to know each other is, there are some, things on the wall in the lunchroom